Which one is the best premium compact SUV? BMW X1 versus Mercedes GLA versus Audi Q3 versus Volvo XC40. We'll take a detailed look at exterior, interior and the driving experience of these premium competitors. Let's go.
This here is the all-new BMW X1 as petrol, diesel, plug-in hybrid or all-electric iX1 soon coming up for you as well. Today also with the driving part, Thomas on Autogefühl for you. Storm Bay Metallic is this very interesting color, especially here with the beautiful raindrops on the paint. When you have the combustion engine, as it is right here, vertical fins in the huge double kidney, and then there are some openings here and there. Then after that, adaptive, they open just on demand. The iX1 just looks a little bit different, but not too much. In the lower part, this is the M Sport line, so a sportier lower design here with the honeycomb structure. So overall, a stronger stance for the X1. In this new generation, it also has wider tracks. That will also have an impact on the driving experience later on to come. 4 meters 50 or 177 inches is the length of the new X1 or iX1 as well then, and that means it has again just slightly in length 5 centimeters or 2 inches, so not too much. Wheels from 17 to 20 inch, these are the 19 inch. However, soon on the iX1 car we also have 20 inch wheels for you. This one with the M Sport and the side profile means the wheel arches are painted in the vehicle color, otherwise you would have, for example, also a contrasting look. There's also the X line available, for example, then with painted black wheel arches as a contrast. Side profile, more form for this function, upright style. It looks like a grown-up SUV already from the outside here indeed. Flush door handles, that makes a more aerodynamic design, and this is also the scheme about this vehicle. Everything that is basically built on the exterior here, for example, also with small vortex generators, they have reduced the wind resistance on everything that is attached on the outside. Let's see, because the battery, for example, for the iX1 won't be that big, soon more deals to that, but they say that no matter which engine you pick, it should be very efficient as for the fuel or energy consumption. We will find out if that's true today. Then, towards the side profile here in the rear, this is very interesting too, because the tail lamps are very three-dimensional here. Very well, you can see that, so pretty strong design, M Sport and with contrasting lower part. And overall, I think it looks modern, but still in an evolutionary way. So I think design-wise here for a compact SUV, they really nailed it. What about you? Tell me in the comments. And this one in here, the xDrive 23i, at this moment here, the strongest pure petrol engine. Soon more about the engines. The top speed, by the way, for the iX1, for the all-electric version, is 180 kilometers an hour or 112 miles per hour. So I think also fairly enough. The petrol engines go even faster then. You either get a base suspension or, as an alternative, the adaptive M suspension. And we also have these adaptive dampers on this vehicle here today. We're going to test them in a later driving part. And here we can see a different color. Cape York Green is that paint name. And also we can see the X line here. We have the contrasting wheel arches, but painted in black then, shiny style, very interesting. These are also 19-inch wheels. And the X-line, you can see you have some gray contrast or silver contrast in the lower part. And here a more off-roadish contrast style or crossover style. So this would be the less sporty look then, in contrast to the M Sport. Then here more, once again, more this original off-road character. Tell me, what do you like best?
Even more variation for you. This one here is in Utah Orange and also the X line once again. Vertical fins, and here the contrasting silver in the lower part looks really cool, I think. And special, maybe you've seen it here, 21-inch wheels from the M Performance parts. So this is then this special edition you can get not directly from configurator but from the M Performance parts. Really striking, maybe a little bit too much, isn't it? And here also with the fitting roof box if you want even more space. Yeah, what do you think about this adventure styling here? And this here is the all-electric BMW iX1. The very interesting thing is you can't really see that's an electric one because, well, on the standard side, it would come with more blue accentuation. but you can depick it for a normal non-EV look, and I think that's a good thing that you can choose if you want to have it more EV looking or not. The only thing you cannot depick is here, the blue ring around the BMW logo. That is always staying like this, so that would be the only thing you can see from the outside. Other than that, you can pick your favorite styling. For example, here, the M Sport with this really sporty kidney. In this case, then all the way closed in the front. That's a thing, you know, you can also see. And also here, the I logo, but not from a distance. And also the M Sport has the more sporty accentuations here in the lower part. Here also with the color, with the matte color, frozen gray. Really stunning style, isn't it? And also in the side profile, you can't see it's an EV. Here, the M Sport in the frozen gray. Once again, these wheel arches are painted in vehicle color, 20-inch wheels. So this is actually, the sportiest look then for the all-new BMW X1. And yeah, indeed, you can pick this as an EV or non-EV, and you can just pick your own styling. I think it's actually a good idea that it doesn't scream out, hey, I'm an EV. Or what do you think about this? Should an electric vehicle look like an EV, or rather like this? And in the rear here, inside the BMW plant, we can also very well see the tail lamps here in a three-dimensional style. xDrive 30 then. For the iX1, this is the only thing you can see in the rear, then that's the iX1. And then once again the M Sport styling with the black accentuation here in the lower part and a huge diffuser style. Yeah, and at least also no fake exhaust tips. And this is the iX1 in mineral white and also with the standard blue accentuations here around the double kidney, for example, and also in the lower part. So this is the iX1 as it would normally look, and then you can, as I said, depick it just without any extra cost. You can also see in the side profile, this again with the 20-inch wheels. Here, there's the blue accentuation in the side bumper as well. And also in the rear, there are two more blue accentuations. I think it looks quite cool. Doesn't look too electric either, but what about you? So would you go for the blue accentuations or not?
Elegant khaki, very light, and here with the M colors in the M Sport styling. You see here the flush door handles, and they fold up then like this and still give you a very good haptic feedback. Door closing sound, yeah, pretty solid here. I think it's better than in the early studio stages. And then here, soft touch. It's a high-grade leatherette sensor tech out the inside of the doors. Harman Kardon sound system, good for music lovers indeed. Here, more extravagant styling here for the door handles, and this is the normal opening from the inside. So they thought about a lot of interesting structures here. Once again, the mirroring the Harman Kardon design on the top part then. M Sport also on the interior means we have here the M Sport steering wheel with these special accentuations. That looks really cool. I will soon also show you the base steering wheel, but this one here, yeah, definitely a cooler look overall. Then here the instruments and the infotainment form one unit. Soon more details about that. Sensation dashboard here, and also Sensation seats, high grade leatherette, now in perforation in black, beige, red, brown, available on basically all markets. And there's also the Alcantara seat available, and even on the US market they offer now the Alcantara seat. That is big news. We had it in our studio episode earlier, the Alcantara seat. That is also a very good choice. But here also the Sensation seats. First of all, the seat form is very good. The sport version here also, so you are being kept quite tight, also in corners, but still offers enough decent comfort. Soft material, so you have in this vehicle here now, especially in the new generation, a seating comfort that is really comparable with way bigger SUVs indeed. That's a very good achievement. Then with 189, 6'2", a lot of headroom left. This one, the one with the panoramic roof, which I shouldn't open right now because it's raining. Well, not too hard at the moment, but still here, yeah, we take all chances for you that you can see everything. A wide opening, you can leave a lot of light on the inside. And for really hot days, you can also close that whole shade. That's of course also a very important thing to do, especially when we think about the US customers. And we are here at the Regensburg plant today in Germany. So this one here, the X1, the X2, the 1 Series, they are built here in Regensburg, Germany, in Bavaria, and not in Spartanburg in the US. In Spartanburg in the US, you build X3, X4, X5, X6, X7. So there's this split because the X1 is also way more often sold in Europe, for example. Clean yet sporty interior, especially here in the M Sport trim. I mentioned the steering wheel, which has, by the way, still manual knobs here on the steering wheel. No hashtag capacitive BS. That's really lovely. And also here shifting pedals, for example. The boost function, by the way, is when you press and hold the left shifting pedal, and then you have manual shifts down to have a quicker boost, and also on the motorway, for example. And then here in the M Sport, we also have this like that structured aluminum style look that looks really cool, and also less black piano like I use, for example. Also great build quality from this high-grade leatherette SensaTech dashboard, and it feels really soft. It has a structure on the inside, so yeah, really great, this material evolvement. Then you have these dual screens here. On the left side 10.25 inch, on the right side 10.7 inch. Here you can already see the Apple CarPlay integration, Android Auto also possible, both wireless only actually. I like the possibility to control also with a cable. Yeah, but let's see if it's reliable here in the remainder of our review. And the Harman Kardon sound system here, let's test it. See how it... Oh yeah, that's very clear. Yeah, a lot of speakers here, 12 speakers. And yeah, cool. It's a nice song, by the way. Yeah, so for music lovers, definitely would recommend that. And let's check out the BMW OS 8 system. That's the new here in this vehicle. I always prefer the overview from the older OS 7. There's also no control knob in the lower part than here for this system. So you have only the touch possibility. That's a catch. And also touch here for the temperature control. That's what I preferred in the previous generation. They still had real dials, but at least they always stay in this area. And wow, it's beautiful ambient lighting integration below that. That's actually pretty cool. The responsive of the system is actually quite nice. Here once again, huge BMW plant in Regensburg as well. There are bigger ones worldwide, yes, but also have like a 9,000 people of workforce here for the smaller and compact models than of BMW. The overview from the menu looks like this, a little bit of an overload, too many apps, so more complexity for the system. You have some hotkeys here on the left side, but they are also just, you know, in this like touch style, so just on the screen actually. And this is the thing about the OS 8. So I did some testing here with some apps and so on, also with the instruments. And with OS 7, I had never, ever any failures, freezes, something. And now, it happened a couple of times. Here now, for example, nothing is happening. BMW internal GPS works, but I can't access the CarPlay somehow. I don't know why. And also here left side on the instruments, when I push the option button, usually these options would appear where I can scroll them through. At this moment, there's a freeze. Also, when I have the Apple Maps on the right side and I want to have them on the left side, it doesn't work for the first time. You have to shut down the vehicle. Then they appear actually shut down. For example, open the door, then everything goes black. Then restart the system, and then the maps go back to the system that you can also see on the left side. Let's see if CarPlay works now after this startup. No, maybe we have to do it one more time or put the car to sleep for a couple of minutes. Yeah, there we go. There we are again. So, I mean, everything works at some point, and most of the time it does work. But the thing is that you have some moments where it doesn't work, and that did never happen with OS 7, but with OS 8, like in the Volkswagen Corporation cars, or also sometimes Mercedes failures. These new infotainment, these complex infotainment systems tend to have more failures. And there we go with the instruments, and there we can also have this view change now. And when I start up the car, you can even better see that. These are then the full instruments, and here also with the RPM that goes like this. And then you can, for example, change the content, what you want to see. Like here, And this then is then the Apple Maps, also on the left side instruments. When you have the Android Auto, then it also works with Google Maps, not in the CarPlay though. Here, or you can change the whole layout like this. I rather prefer the first one here, or what about you? And the head-up display is always a nice option to have everything in your line of sight. Middle console is very interesting. First of all, here, this is the inductive charging area, and the smartphone gets a seat belt like here, and these here are some gaps for the cooling. So the air is being sucked away from the back side so that the inductive charging doesn't overheat the smartphone. Oh, there's Schmoozy. Yeah, God bless her. My little love. She's gone now for a while. Yeah, I'm still sad, really sad. But here, seat belt. There we go. And then the smartphone is being kept tight, doesn't fly around the vehicle. And once again, it now also stays cool and is not overheating. Then here, cup holders, not adaptive. That's one thing that is missing, I think. 2 USB-C chargers. And then you have this flying console. So you see here, you can grab underneath it. It's being taken away from the design of the iX. A very small shifting lever, still a real volume jog. I love that. And then you press it here to open this split. Well, this is our access to the BMW plant. And some space here actually, but more space definitely underneath this whole element. Rear seating here, a little bit harder pack here in the rear doors. Harman sound system also for the rear, and soft touch is then this here for the armrest. It's a very comfortable, rather upright seating position indeed, and you also have some legroom left. Not necessarily less than in bigger SUVs by BMW indeed. You can use this recess here as well. Of course, I could put my front seat a little bit more upright. That would also work indeed. And here with my height, 189 or 6'2", it also works headroom-wise, although this is done the panoramic roof. Here in the combustion engine version, that's the only catch compromise on the interior, what you cannot get here for the iX1, the EV. Here, the slidable rear bench, 13 centimeters or 5 inches. This one is only possible in the non-EV version. You can also once again show you the difference when I'm, for example, putting wait a minute. I put this one forward, and you can see the difference even better. So this one here, there you can see that difference. But of course, most of the time I want to go for most legroom, and you can, for 1, 2, 3, adjust here the angle. Either sit a little bit more upright like this is possible, or more land backwards, or then fold it completely, and then you're quite flexible. This one maybe as a ski hatch, or maybe just putting this one down and so on. Here also the nice perforation for the center tech, leatherette. Very comfortable, also breathable, very soft material. And by the way, if you ask yourself, oh, is it as durable? Yes, BMW has done some tests, long-term tests. You know, there are these testing facilities, and they can ensure it has the very same durability as, for example, the animal skin leather. So really a lot of progress in these material choices recently. So overall, the rear compartment here is very top-notch for a compact SUV, one of the best in the premium compact SUV segment. And here USB-C chargers in this middle part. You do have some kind of a middle console. Of course, you also have the all-wheel drive transmission tunnel here, and also for rigidity reasons. But in the middle part, you can still sit. It's also fairly comfortable. Of course, not as good as on the outside seats here. And ISOFIX, 1, 2 possibilities in the front driver's seat. Actually 2, so yeah. So here's also ISOFIX. So here, this weekend, there's 3 ISOFIX points. Recently got some messages from young family fathers and mothers asking for that. So indeed, this one here, they thought of a lot of things also in detail. And here in this interior, this is not the M Sport, the X line. We have here the bright SensaTech seats. So in beige, these high-grade leather seats. It looks really great, right? So I think brings a lot more joy to the interior when you have the bright styling here. However, I prefer the M Sport from the dashboard, because here in this normal dashboard, more high gloss black piano lacquer, not that so sporty look. And the steering wheel, it looks sporty also as a base styling, but not as sporty as in the M Sport. You don't have the special accentuations in the lower part and so on. So, I mean, you can also go with the M Sport, for example, also with different seats, for example, but the dashboard for the M Sport looks just cooler, doesn't it? But yeah, bright seating here, so you have different color choices. That's also pretty cool, right?
And more interior variation for you. These here are the brown Sensatec seats. Also here with the perforations, same material, just different color. And this interior also features the open cell eucalyptus wood. So really beautiful, more classic style here. This is also a nice choice, right? So either modern maybe in the M Sport then with the aluminum look. But you can see here, this one features the M Sport steering wheel, but still goes for the eucalyptus style here at the dashboard. So you can also vary that.
Now to the trunk area, electric hatch. And then we have 540 up to 1,600 liters. I already folded two sides of that. Here also the cabin trolley easily fits in vertically. So very well usable. The only thing is that the compact SUV doesn't have the longest length than here. It's 80 centimeters here or about 31 inches. So this where along a sedan or an X3 would have just more trunk length. The width, however, is a good meter or 40 inches, so that's very well usable indeed. And the total length to the seat as I would be driving is almost 170 in meters or 65 inches. Well, the iX1 or the plug-in hybrid, so the electrified or electric versions, they have a little bit less of trunk space, but only because, well, they have that too, but then here, this then a little bit is missing. Above the cover, all versions are actually equal, and that's a very cool thing. And last but not least, the height of this trunk might always be relevant. Like this is about, standard like 70 centimeters or 27 inches, almost 28 inches.
What about the trunk space for the iX1? Indeed, there are no compromises when you go electric as for the trunk space here, and underneath you also have some space for your charging cables.
As for engines, well, there is a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder petrol engine, based on that the plug-in hybrids, but this one here is the 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine with around 200 horsepower and a 23i, the top spec petrol engine, also with all-wheel drive. This is a front-wheel based platform, so it's front plus rear than the all-wheel drive in this case. 7.1 seconds is the acceleration figure. You can also get a 2-liter 4-cylinder diesel. And then also the iX1, the all-electric version, 5.6 seconds is the acceleration figure, so it's actually quicker than the strongest petrol engine with that all-wheel drive version. The iX1, the EV, will be available as all-wheel drive, but also as a front-wheel drive only version that is then also a little bit slower. And also the specs for the iX1 as for the battery, 65 kilowatt hours net. And then you can go some 400 kilometers or 250 miles. We'll see later on if that's really true. As for the efficiency, 10 to 80% state of charge, 29 minutes with a 130 kilowatt peak. But here in this driving part today, we'll both present you the petrol engine and the electric one and compare it. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the all-new BMW X1. Yeah, Michelle and I, we always have a lot of fun here in the vehicles, therefore. Interesting, we have here the augmented reality view for the front camera. So we have the arrow here where I have to go. And maybe we'll hear that. There we go. Did you hear that sound? So that was when the traffic line is jumping to green and you're not starting. Then the car says like, hey Thomas, wake the F up. It's time to go. The traffic light is green. That's an interesting feature, right? Because, sometimes when the traffic light is red, we start talking to cameras or to other people, maybe. Yeah, I'm usually talking to cameras.
Thank you.
Poor me. Yeah, sometimes I also talk to you. Yes, of course. Yeah, see now I reacted fast enough, so there was no beeping sound. And here we have these arrows going to the left now. So interesting, this augmented reality view and also the camera feature. We'll now enter the German Autobahn. Yes, motorway time, my modes, and then I'll pick Sport. You cannot press it twice or something. You have to press it once here and then select Sport here. More response from the throttle, for example. And we can also go to the Sport shifting mode that even turns up the RPM even further for the Autobahn. Not necessary, but here to get the max out of this petrol engine and We'll start at 50 kilometers an hour and accelerate to 120. Let's go. Plop, that's it. That was 50 kilometers an hour to 120 kilometers an hour. And now when I'm reaching that goal here, I can go, for example, back to the personal or comfort mode, also go back to the normal de-shifting mode. Then the engine is also more silent. The iX1 will be quicker in the all-wheel drive version. In the acceleration figure, it will be 1.5 seconds quicker in that acceleration figure. Actually, that's very interesting. Then the cruise control set here on the left side of the steering wheel. So good also to have real buttons for that. That's actually quite cool. And the X1 also gives you a good traveling feeling. It has the same platform just like the BMW 2 Series Active Tourer, and I really have to say in that new generation they both come very, very close. Before the difference was bigger, but the interior here, the cockpit is basically the same. In the X1 you sit a little bit more upright. The 2 Series Active Tourer has more a crossover feeling. This one here more already like a grown-up SUV feeling, but indeed they come close. If you think about difference BMW X1 versus X3, the X3 gives you even a bigger SUV feeling. You sit higher, even more upright, a little bit more sophisticated. It's not that you would have more legroom in the rear. It's more in the front that you have this larger SUV feeling. But here already you have very good comfort. These new seats are really very good. The soft center tech material is also awesome. And also the Alcantara seat, that would also be good. Depending on which surface you like better. You know, that's visual choice. That's a tough one, right? You want to try that? Visual choice? Visual choice. You repeat that 3 times at home. You know what I mean, yeah. So it's a little bit rainy outside today, but we are still quite lucky with the filming. But we can test the noise insulation. It's actually quite decent. But you do hear a difference when you compare to a 3 Series or X3, so that one platform above that, then they are a little bit more silent. But already here for this compact SUV, you hear the difference here when I lower the window. We don't have dual insulation glass here, but still there's a decent insulation. You hear the difference here now. Then I feel pretty much at home here also on the German Autobahn with this vehicle. It is basically all SUV you need already. If you compare it to the predecessor, of course, infotainment cockpit-wise, their most has been done actually. So interior build quality-wise, this is also pretty cool. So we've seen it recently, even with Mercedes, for example, that the build quality in the interior and the materials being used are rather worse than before. But here BMW is really stepping up the game, making the interiors more premium. And yeah, especially interior-wise, BMW has become among the best in the business actually as for the premium interiors. That's really interesting. At the same time, investing a lot of money in sustainable interior material choices. So that's a good thing, definitely. Now, once again, S shifting mode, sport mode, a little bit complicated to choose that. From 100, yeah. 150. Let's see how far we can go. That's 180 kilometers an hour and still decently silent on the exterior. Of course, now it's a little bit louder, but the car is staying really upright, at the same time comfortable. 19-inch wheels. I would also stick with the 19-inch wheels, 20-inch wheels. They are just, visually, they are great. But comfort-wise, 19 is still, I think, a good compromise. And here, the car is really very stable. What I feel here at higher speeds is that the steering here in this area is a little bit wake, and then beginning here, then I get the feeling for it. So this one here is too vague for me in this, very small degree angles. That's something I think they need to fix. It is better actually with their larger SUVs. Now let's compare it when we. That's too complicated to switch the driving modes here. May go back to the normal comfort mode and normal shifting mode. It's interesting. Yeah, this vague feeling stays, and then it's a little bit lighter also towards the side. From a suspension, definitely more comfortable. Let's switch it back again, sport mode. Yeah, I feel a little bit more the uneven parts of the road, but here at the moment it's quite even. So even in the sport mode here with the adaptive suspension, you still have a lot of comfort. That's of course a very, very cool thing to have. So indeed it combines sportiness and comfort. That's something they can do very, very well. And also the seats hold you very tight. So indeed you feel at home in the city, but at the same time you can use it for long hauls on the motorway. That is actually really excellent thing to do. How good can we follow actually the GPS here while driving? In their bigger cars, you have some somewhat bigger screen, but still it's big enough. And I also have the GPS information in the head-up display, for example. Or you can go for that Apple Maps solution then, or the Google Maps solution in the Android Auto connection that you also have things here in the instruments cluster. That will also be another possibility. So driving-wise, again, hardware-wise, yeah, one of the best compact SUVs indeed. When I think about the direct competitors, of course, that would be the Mercedes GLA or maybe also Mercedes GLB, depending on how you define it, and the Audi Q3, Sportback. So there's this coupe and non-coupe version. Here from the X1, of course, there will be also the X2 then in the next generation. X2 would be the direct competitor to the Q3 Sportback. Yeah, and we had recently that, the small Lexus SUV, compact Lexus SUV, for example. And I feel that user interface-wise, the Audi Q3 would be easiest to use. Driving dynamics-wise, the X1 and the Q3 come really close because they both combine sportiness and comfort. With the GLA, is more set on a, let's say, softer, slower note, unless you go for the AMG model. Here already, when you have the suspension, does a great job, but also already the base model feels sporty. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to drive the X1. So I think if you compare it to the Cayenne it's like a wedding Cayenne. Seen that? Is that even legal? It didn't have a proper license plate on, just like handwriting. Usually in Germany you can't do that, So as soon as you see something like that, the police would stop you at some point. Yeah, I haven't seen that quite often. Now getting off the motorway and more like countryside driving, and we have no one facing us. We can also do some more slalom, different driving modes in testing. So now, for example, here. So yeah, the steering is not most natural in the feeling. It feels sporty, and I talked to BMW representatives about that also because I criticized it over in the 3 Series, and they say by making the steering lighter and less natural in a way, they convey a feeling that the car itself feels lighter. You can follow this argument because, yeah, when the steering is light, the whole car somehow feels light, yes. And in a way, maybe more modern, I think. But I always prefer more that I have a natural feeling for the car. And if I have more resistance in the steering, then I feel more one with the vehicle, to combine driver, car and road, that somehow there is a connection you can really feel. And here it's a little bit moving through thin air. Sure, that might be also something of the M Sport or so, but I felt in the 2 Series Active Tourer it was a little bit better. Sometimes strange. Of course, every single model gets also the individual setup for that. Here, by the way, when you go just to the S-shifting mode, then you can stay in the normal driving mode, but just have the shifting set up that here. Car is shifting up later when you are in the S-shifting mode, whereas in the D-shifting mode, it's more about fuel economy, shifting up earlier and so on, and shifting down later. So you can also vary that if you, for example, want to keep in the comfortable suspension mode, but just want to change the shifting for maybe like quick Autobahn overtaking. However, at the same time, what you can always also do is use the pin down, even if you are in the most comfortable and most relaxed driving mode. Pin down here, and then you also get the acceleration. But the other one would be more spontaneous, or using these shifting pedals to shift down or up here. And here this boost mode, told you earlier, when you click and hold it, then you have 10 seconds of boost, and there's also this multiple shift down possible. So this is also another possibility to stay in a normal driving mode, for example. And then you say, I want to have the boost now. Click and hold it, and then you got that. But yeah, I'm not really sure if you would really use it in everyday driving life. Yeah, maybe then this manual shift down, 1 or 2 clicks, I think it just goes faster than clicking and holding it. I think this function is a little bit redundant or not really that much needed, So to me, a big thing here about the X1, especially in this new generation, is the driving fun. You can have a comfortable vehicle on the motorway at the same time. You have a sporty one for countryside roads and so on. That's a cool thing to have, definitely. So it feels really elaborated and modern. This is what I really love about this vehicle, with some shortcomings here, as I said, of the climate unit, that I can't control it that well while driving. When you are a guy that leaves 22 degrees Celsius or like 72 degrees Fahrenheit in auto mode all the time, then you couldn't care less, then you don't need the knobs anyway. But I'm this climate control guy. AC on, AC off, vent strength up, vent strength down, colder, warmer. I'm always changing it because, just want to do it to feel more comfortable in the vehicle. And you feel somehow more in control of what the vehicle is doing. That's what I think. Once again, in these faster corners, that feels really beautiful. And you can leave everything in the normal driving mode. It feels really excellent. I love that. So playing together with the suspension then as well, the adaptive suspension, driving dynamics wise, they are really top notch, on top of the game. So from everything we've experienced, besides maybe that I don't like the OS 8, it is one of the best compact SUVs out there. And inside the BMW portfolio, the 2 Series Active Tourer probably has the even better price-performance ratio. So that was also one of the interesting findings for today, that, no one would have expected that. The 2 Series Active Tourer is definitely a strong internal competitor to the X1 now. You have to bear that in mind. So maybe, check it out at the dealer if that's available on your market. That of course also depends, but especially for the European market, then 2 Series Active Tourer or X1, you can pick between these two and then just see which one is more suitable to you. So that's one of the interesting findings for today. And our fuel economy result here, consumption for the ICE, internal combustion engine 23i, is something less than 7 liters on 1 kilometers. So it's about 35 mpg US, some 44 mpg UK. And now the iX1 electric. That's the acceleration. Really strong. Can you see the acceleration figure in the display? Let me change that for you. So the best experience for you. So now you can see the speed better, right? Now you can see the speed. So you have instant torque with this one. 1.5 seconds faster in the acceleration figure if you compare to the petrol engine. Here, for example, like 50 to 70, like 45 to 70. Flop, that's it already. So super, super quick indeed. These iconic sounds are on indeed. So you can also turn them off if you like. And well, you have to know where they are actually. Where was it again? Driving settings. There, iconic sounds off, and then it's like here, there's nothing, again the difference then. And we can also go in the sports mode, and they're even more extreme. So now sports mode. Woo. So have you heard the difference to the normal mode? We go to the normal mode again. And the sports mode. More low frequent sound indeed. It's very interesting. And the only thing is, like, when you switch around things here, it's always tricky actually to do that while driving. You don't have this central control knob anymore here in the new X1. You always have to search for some functions. Of course, you know, you get used to some, definitely. Here the driving settings are quite important, definitely. Here to turn these ones off or on. And if you click in there, you can also change what kind of recuperation you want to have in the normal D driving mode. For example, adaptive, high, moderate or low, so different adaptive modes. So when I'm in the normal D driving mode and I have adaptive activated, that means actually when I lift my throttle and there's no one in front of me, the car is rather rolling, there's no recuperation, so there's no, you know, I'm just rolling and there's no, you know, getting slower and so on. But I can soon show you that when I'm approaching a vehicle that is then closer, it almost works like the adaptive cruise control. Then this adaptive recuperation, or here, recognizes I'm a little bit too fast, there's 70, it's the speed limit, then for example also the recuperation could be working. Or now the map data indicate that we're going downhill for a longer time. This is also a case where the adaptive recuperation could reduce the speed. Or then indeed in combination with the cruise control that this is happening, for example. And this could be a compromise between one pedal driving and a strong recuperation and no recuperation and rolling and just recuperation on demand by the brake pedal. You can also induce that either here and then in the menu, or easier here with the shifting lever, pull it backwards, and then it is in the B mode. And in B mode then I lift my foot off the throttle and then there is strong recuperation. So depending on what you like, or for example you're going downhill for a longer period of time, then you would also go into that B mode and then you have a strong recuperation. As for driving it, it's a lot of fun. It's so much more spontaneous and sporty than the petrol engine. The petrol engine already felt good with that vehicle, but here you have more weight, yes, but you have a low center of gravity. The car is, although it's raining now, I feel it's hooking up better to the road, and you have this great acceleration out of the corners. It does have front wheel bias in a way, because most of the time the front electric motor is used. The rear then on demand. The more you push the throttle, when you really hammer it out, as I did earlier, then you can have up to a 50-50 all-wheel drive distribution. They usually try to use the front electric motor because it is a little bit more efficient than the rear one, or not using the rear one when you're just rather rolling and so on. But when you use as much power as you try or want, then again you can reach up to 50-50 distribution. At a later stage also only the front wheel drive model will be available. So especially in the sport mode, super spontaneous. Let's go back to the normal mode, see how that one turns out. Here now in the corner, accelerating out, it's a little bit smoother, not that direct from the throttle input, but you can have this power output all the time when you just pin it down. Or what's also possible, using the left pedal here, there's no right pedal then here in the EV version. With the left pedal, you can have the sporty boost for 10 seconds and it immediately goes forward. So that would be an alternative to switch through the driving modes. So you have a lot of different driving modes and settings and boost options. The question is, will you ever need all of them? Probably not. You will probably find out which one you really like best and then use these over time. For most cases, and also driving data indicate that most car owners just keep everything in the standard modes and just use the vehicle and that's it. But it's good to know what the car is capable of, definitely. And also in normal mode, you can always hit the throttle and have great acceleration. The sound is also subtle enough, but as shown to you earlier, you can also turn these sounds off to have a pure silent driving experience. And indeed, comparing here the petrol engine and the full electric version, this EV is indeed much more fun to drive. It's really astonishing. It feels more agile in corners actually, although it is heavier, and of course the stronger acceleration. Yeah, here when driving slow, of course it's all silent. This is also a cool thing. so you have no engine noise at all. And after all, the combustion engine is a 4-cylinder. So if you would think like, hey, I'm driving a 6 or 8-cylinder versus an EV, then more of the sound is missing. There's a bigger difference, but 4-cylinder versus EV, then it's not that big of a case that you would miss the combustion engine sound or something, you know. So in this case, then the advantages of the EV really play a role with silence at low speeds, the iconic sounds on demand, but really the spontaneous acceleration. But you can also drive it smoothly if you want to, and yeah, the agility is really enhanced by the EV here. Steering is more or less the same. Once again, I think it's a little vague in the short degree angles here. Yeah, that is too vague, definitely. But then to the sides, it gets a little bit more feeling. But that's the same ICE and EV. Also seating comfort and so on, and the whole experience of the vehicle is more or less the same. It's really that drivetrain and also the weight distribution. So, and yeah, you might think that it's bad if there's more weight, but since it's really put in the lower end of the vehicle, it really helps the vehicle. The only thing, when you are in really, really tight corners, and then the car is pushing to the outside of the corner, then more weight is bad actually. But in normal situations, and for example, when the corners are a little bit more, you know, a little bit wider, which is the case in most cases in public traffic, then it's actually more fun with this different weight distribution. But don't get me wrong, the 23i we've been driven earlier, that is a really cool fitting engine to the vehicle, no doubt, and it felt really one with the vehicle. But this drivetrain here also feels one with the vehicle. There are two things actually majorly about this car and the range. First of all, the kilowatt hour net figure that has been enhanced. If you compare it to our studio episode, they worked on that to give you more usable battery size. Now it's 65 kilowatt hours net. And the second thing is that they really improved aerodynamics, because bear in mind, it's really interesting, already in normal city driving, and let's say everything driving besides motorway, already more than a third of the consumption has to do with the aerodynamics. And on motorway driving, Autobahn, higher speed, it's 2/3 of the consumption that goes back to aerodynamics, not efficiency of anything else. So aerodynamics, and especially with electric vehicles, is key. And that's why they also majorly had to work here on this one. So very impressive ride here with the X1, the most fun you can have with the all-new X1, definitely. And to me, no doubt, either petrol or if the charging infrastructure is okay for you, go directly with the EV. And we'll drive it a little bit further now and then have a final energy, economy and final real-world range result. And the iX1 test consumption for today, around 18 kilowatt hours and 100 kilometers. We can deduct a little bit because of the acceleration tests. That would be some 30 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. So overall real world range in our test today, around 350 kilometers or 220 miles. And again, maybe a little bit better would be possible if there were no acceleration tests at all. Overall, a quite decent result considering the size of the battery. It's not a too big battery. We knew that before. Again, a little bit better would be possible. It's not the best in the competition, not at all in the range. Efficiency is actually quite good, yes, but it's also not really very bad. So something average in between. And if you now compare petrol versus EV as for the costs, here in Germany, although we have most expensive energy price in the world together with Denmark, still here, I would have paid for the same trip with a petrol engine, like 100 kilometers, about 14 euros in petrol, and here about like 6-7 euros in in energy, and that's actually half the running costs then for the iX1, and it will be even cheaper, of course, if energy is cheaper in your country.
This is the all-new Mercedes GLA. This new generation, here on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Thomas in front of the camera and Jonas behind the camera today. Exterior, interior and the driving experience. We'll compare it to the predecessor. What has changed? What's the new emphasis of this vehicle? And since they all share the same platform, A-Class, B-Class, GLA, what are the differences in this respect? So please join us now, if you're interested, in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! The new Mercedes GLA has a stronger appearance in the front. It's already sassy in the front. I am more of an SUV now. And indeed, well, it's a little bit wider than before. Wheelbase has been increased just a little bit. And different front grills are available. This one here, based on the AMG line with this diamond pin grille right there. This is so-called Edition or Edition 1, a special launch model, but it's based on the AMG line, so most of the things are actually AMG line, you see. Optional, you can get LED lamps. This one here, the optional multi-beam LED lamps with a high beam function as well. And the grey Magno color, a very beautiful one, a matte color. Always a very special one, and yeah, probably one I would also consider. The only disadvantage of those matte colors are you cannot polish them, so if you have some scratches in there, that's a problem actually. Other than that, they stay clean, you know, quite long. So, and when there's normal rain, they clean themselves a little bit. That would be the pro argument for them. And of course, it looks really amazing. This edition also has red contrast here. Other than that, the AMG line in general has a stronger lower bumper. And I would like to know, what do you think here, the new front design of the GLA? 4.41 meters, 14 foot 5 or 174 inches is the length of the new Mercedes GLA. There's a little bit increase in wheelbase, as I already said, if you compare it to the predecessor, but the overhang is a little bit shorter, pretty interesting. And if you compare it now to the Mercedes GLB, which would be the bigger brother, this one here is still 22 centimeters or 9 inches shorter. But the wheelbase is identical to the Mercedes B-Class and the Mercedes A-Class. You could so say it's like a put-up B-Class or a way put-up A-Class, but we'll see more about that on the interior. Exterior-wise, you can see that design has been modified, that it's more SUV now, crossover wheel arches, 17 to 20-inch wheels. These are the biggest ones, 20-inch wheels for the normal models. The AMG would then come from 19 to 21 inch. Here also with the red contrast here in the normal wheel style. So again, AMG line, sportier look definitely. You will have more comfort if you go for smaller wheels, of course. Speaking of comfort, there's a normal steel suspension available, which will also do a fine job. If you want to spend more money, we also have the adaptive suspension here today with this vehicle. That is an option. Then we have a chrome frame around the window here. You can also get the dark styling if you like, but this one here, of course, more elegant. And we have, very interesting shoulder area here, and especially with the matte paint. It's really nice to hug the car then, yeah. That's what car enthusiasts do, don't they? So, and that is also to me one of the differences. It just looks a little bit fancier, a little bit more lifestyle-ish, SUV off-roadish than the B-Class, and that could also be an argument to pay a little bit more extra if you compare it to the B-Class, because most of the stuff is really, pretty close to the Mercedes B-Class. This one, again, a little bit more expensive, but a little bit more fancy. Or what do you think? And now to the rear with the common design trend of more horizontally drawn tail lamps, but I think it looks quite modern then. Actually has the shape also of the other bigger SUVs at Mercedes. And then there's this chrome design element right there, and also chrome exhaust, not really exhaust tips. fake exhaust police. Yeah, that's a pure fake exhaust. And also on the other side, the real exhaust underneath. Yeah, and the AMG line has this diffuser here in the lower part. So what's the design take? This is the car key, slim and light, pretty nice. Keyless entry works like this, put your hand on the outside or on the inside. You can also open and close the car with your smartphone, NFC, that also was possible. Door closing sound, that sounds pretty solid. And you really have to slam the doors for GLA, B-Class, A-Class, CLA and so on. Not sure if it's the insulation or so, but if you just do it slightly, it can happen that it doesn't properly close, so you really have to slam them always. Inside of the doors, you see they are pretty upright, as also with the B-Class. That is for more space on the interior. Here then with the microfiber dynamic car insert and leatherette above that, soft touch, and this is also animal free. Then we have a sporty styling here with the carbon fiber insert. We also control the seats from here, and also reasonable space at the inside of the doors. Then this styling from this launch model is with red contrast stitches and so on. So you can see it also with the sporty steering wheel, for example. That is also similar in the normal AMG line. Also then with the aluminum pedals in the lower area. So they are also quite fancy, of course, typical AMG line style. The rest of the interior is also similar as A-Class and B-Class as well. And these seats here, in this case, is one of the rare animal skin options, also special for this launch model. Other than that, this GLA, together with the other compact Mercedes class, has a wide offer of only fabric Artico leatherette mix, full Artico leatherettes, all animal free. Also then the AMG line usually comes with Dynamica microfiber on the inside, leatherette on the outside. Artico Ambitex is their leatherette brand, depending on the market, they are called differently. So the choices actually of animal-free materials that are high grade are almost endless with the Mercedes compact vehicles, so that's very well done overall, even though it's not the case in this very car. And also how it feels, for example, we had this in the CLA, I think, you can check out the episode. It has this white-black leatherette option available, which also feels very soft and amazing, and you cannot really tell the difference. So also for this one, I couldn't tell. I needed to check the configurator to see what it actually is. Seating position here is actually quite upright. You sit 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches higher than in the Mercedes A-Class. Same platform, but really higher seating position overall, and that's actually good. So to me, it's the most comfortable Mercedes compact vehicle. I mean, yeah, together with the GLB, the bigger brother, of course, that is quite similar from the seating position in the front, just that the GLB will have even more legroom in the rear. But this is actually quite cool. You sit upright, you feel this is now like rather a grown-up SUV. Also, if you compare it to the predecessor GLA, which more went into the crossover direction. Steering wheel can be controlled up and down and in and out. Soon, when we get to another perspectives, more about these screens. You can see it looks like it would be one screen, but it's actually two screens. Soon again, more details. Steering wheel here on the left side, by the way, will be used for the cruise control. And also this thumb control for the left screen, right thumb control for the other screen, and here, for example, the volume jog. So, I think here in the front already quite convincing. Oh yeah, and last but not least, the overview has been increased. So when you look from the inside to the outside, because the pillars are actually slimmer than before, you have more shoulder space, so you can really feel at home here. And I mean, it's 86 or 6'1", still leaves some headroom. Although we have this panoramic roof here, this can also be opened like this. This is, of course, an option as well. If you want more headroom, then leave out the panoramic roof. Other than that, it leaves, some fresh air in. you can also close it then with this cover, and it's also split to the rear, and then it's quite interesting because we can also, you know, either close it that way or we can try here. Hey Mercedes, close the sunroof. Magic. That's a cool feature, right? To show off to your friends and stuff, you know. And one more MBUX natural voice input example. Hey Mercedes, drive me to Stuttgart Mercedes headquarters.
Starting route guidance for Stuttgart.
Now the interior overview. First of all, soft touch materials here, top part, even here, turbine vent style. So that looks pretty clean and cool. Also a little bit different here on the right area if you compare it to the B-Class. Steering wheel then with these bright elements, and I said earlier here the right thumb, for example, to control the right screen, and you would use the left thumb if they wouldn't hold the microphone here for the left screen. It starts, by the way, with 7-inch screens each on both sides. The second option would be 7-inch here and 10.25 like this here, and then this is the dual 10.25-inch setup, the top setup. Even the smaller screen comes standard with MBUX infotainment system. And then the top one, of course, also has it. And also with the natural voice input, for example. We'll test it very soon. Levers still left here for putting in the gear. Just put down for the drive mode. And left side then for the wipers and the indicators. Head-up display, soon also more details to that and to the screens. First of all, here then, the AC units, the menu clicking sound. That's nice. Sometimes these buttons here do not seem to be aligned 100%. I'm not sure if it's even possible, but in this vehicle it seems quite okay at least. Then in the lower part, either you have this shut everything, but everything here with the high gloss black catches a lot of dust and so on. Slide this open, then you have either an inductive charging platform for your smartphone, or, especially when you use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you plug it in like this. Then you have 2 adaptive cup holders right there. Then there's next possibility to control the infotainment system, which would be this touchpad here. Go back or to the home menu. Then changing the driving modes. We'll talk about that when we drive the car. And then there's this parking assistant, for example. There's a hotkey also to change assistance systems of the vehicle. Also with the new car wash function, that the roof and windows, everything is closed and the mirrors are folded in just with one function when you're approaching a car wash. Before that, only available with the GLS. And then last but not least, here with the armrest, covered in leatherette, and you flip it open like this. Then you have 2 more USB-C chargers there and some reasonable space. Here it is, by the way, where you could activate the car wash function when the car is running. Head-up display can also be activated or deactivated here, but I think you will always have it activate definitely. And this is also a function when you search, for example, you can say, hey Mercedes, activate head-up display. That's also, you know, a cool thing to have. Other than that, it is also a touchscreen. Yes, not sure if I mentioned it before, but you know it from other Mercedes reviews here with the new MBUX system. So this is of course another way to control it. And the GPS looks like this. So so actually quite fancy screen, and it's also responsive enough. And the CarPlay integration looks like this. Here we go. Doesn't use all of the screen, but I think that's also not, you know, not too bad. So like this here, and this one here is also the optional Burmester sound system. And for a compact vehicle, this has really a nice clear sound. So it's very expensive, yes, but if you want the best sound, I can indeed recommend it. So that's about the infotainment system. If you want to see more of that, for example, there's also this comfort function, which is called Seat Kinetics. This is then when you activate it, moving the seats a little bit, just, you know, very slight movements during driving to reduce fatigue. And there's also an extensive ambient lighting available where you can, for example, put up the brightness. That's what I always do to have it a little bit fancier. And of course, a nice color, a multicolor, for example, or I always like the ocean blue color, for example, at the inside of the doors. Or then what's also cool here, you can maybe already pick it up on camera now, here around the turbine air vents in the middle. This is one of the fanciest position where this appears then. A crystal clear view on these digital instruments, so they are actually quite fancy, and you can also change the views here, for example, with styles and display. There's, for example, a sporty view available if you prefer that. This has this AMG style. We also see it in the AMG cars. Other than that, what's also handy that you can put the GPS information right in here. So that's, of course, another good use for the digital instruments. And can also be put to full screen. In the head-up display, you can even change the contents you want to see there. Of course, the normal speed makes most sense, and then even the left and the right part, you can control what you really want to see there. So pretty fancy, have a lot of options here. I can also hop to the right part of it, for example, but I mean, I would probably just use the basic function. It's good to have it, nice option, everything in your line of sight. Rear view camera looks like this. Have the fake drone view from above, and also the real rear view camera, and then also the helping lines adapt accordingly, and it's a very, very good resolution. And now to the rear. Let's see about that. So it's a very wide opening of the door, and also with a beautiful microfiber on the inside, soft leatherette around, so this is a high build quality, pretty cool. Also same design then for the rear seats, and the whole form also reminds us of the B-Class, surely. By the way, this rear bench can be moved forward and backward if you have that option. Not in this very test car here at the moment, but then it would also go forward or backward 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches. So the same dimensions like you sit higher than in the A-Class. Interesting, right? Oh, I opened the fuel cap just by leaning on it. It's like you can hip open the fuel cap here. Interesting. So let's see, get inside. And this is of course pretty cool. More wheelbase than in the predecessor, and also more usage of interior space. So still a lot of knee room left, even though this is set to my driving position. Headroom wise, I can even still put a hand over my head. And again, even more if the panoramic roof would not be built in this vehicle. At the moment there, the shade is then closed. So, and you sit upright, very comfortable. It's a very good family car as well. Isofix at the outside of the seats to install these then, and you can move around very freely here in the rear. It's just at the middle tunnel here. Of course, optional all-wheel drive car, and also for stability reasons. So here in the middle part, cup holders. But you can also use this just as a ski hatch and just fold this middle part. And if I would be sitting just in the middle here, that actually works as well. So you can really use this car with 3 adults. Last but not least, in this middle console, you not only have 2 more turbine vents. In the lower part, you have 2 more USB-C chargers. 435 to 1,430 liters is the capacity figure. Let's see what that does. Electric hatch we have here, and very well usable. So it's a slight increase. This is just an additional cover you don't have to use. Underneath here you still have more storage space. It's also subwoofer. So, and some storage here at the sides, that's possible. I already flipped half of the bench. There's also a ski edge available that you just flip the middle part. And this cover here, the top one, you can also remove. And let me give you some measurements. So the normal length here to the seat is about 80 centimeters. The width here is actually a little bit more than a meter. And the height here to the top cover is about 40 centimeters. Last but not least, what's then the length to the seating position for me as a driver? And that is 1.60 meters. So overall, I think you can do a lot of things with the car. You can also reach over here to flip the last of the seat. Here we go. And that's then the maximum setup. And then you get a better impression what's with the luggage and stuff. Here we go. So you can also put it in a vertical way. You can also do a closing test. First of all, for the child safety. Oh, there we go. That's perfect. So that's most of the time at Mercedes that it's so sensitive, really very well done, and yet there's no problem with closing it. And you see also with the luggage there, it's no problem. Now to engines, all 4 cylinders, and yay, hydraulic struts we have here. This is a GLA 250, most relevant engine, turbo petrol engine, 2-liter 4-cylinder, 224 horsepower. Optional with all-wheel drive, but there's also the smaller GLA 200, 1.33-liter 4-cylinder, 163 horsepower. That then the one from the Renault Corporation, and it will also be available as 250e with the electric motor, so a PHEV then with 218 horsepower system output. But although it's 250 and 250e, the E model is then made with the smaller petrol engine, so don't be mistaken for that. But this one here, the one you can see, is the original Mercedes engine here, the 2-liter 4-cylinder. Then this one here will also be the one for the AMG models, but of course then modified, either to 306 horsepower for the 35 model, or for the 45, then with 387 or 412 horsepower for the 45S. Last but not least, diesels. 2-liter 4-cylinder diesels, 116 horsepower in the 180D, 150 in the 200D, or 190 horsepower in the 220D. So, yeah, a lot of choices, and the bigger engines always come with all-wheel drive, the middle ones optional all-wheel drive, and the smallest ones only front-wheel drive, so that's the normal logic. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the all-new Mercedes GLA, here as a GLA 250. This will be probably the most important engine worldwide for this car. The 2-liter 4-cylinder Mercedes engine. You remember, I told you earlier, the smaller 1.33-liter turbo petrol engine would be the Renault-based engine. So this one in here, was about the acceleration figure just below 7 seconds. So with all-wheel drive, as we have it here today, is a little bit faster. This vehicle here is equipped with the all-wheel drive, the 4MATIC system. Also available with front-wheel drive, the very same engine. All-wheel drive will be relevant, for example, for alpine regions, you know, winter regions, so to say. You know, for more pure city areas, it's not that crucial if you have it or not. So, but we have it here today, and as I said, a little bit faster, and the all-wheel drive distribution is actually quite interesting. So usually when we drive here right now, it is 80% in the front and 20% of torque in the rear. So there's this, you know, this clutch, also puts some torque to the rear. Whoa, this was the autonomous emergency brake, also with putting the seat belts tight. Because we were quite fast and the car in front of us was turning, and then for a second obviously our car thought maybe that car in front of us coming to a stop and then needs to apply the autonomous emergency brake. One of the series equipment systems that is inbuilt here, and we do have the extensive assistance systems package that also comes with more, for example also with the blind spot monitor, which we can soon show to you. And some other vehicles are approaching us from the rear. Yeah, they are coming. They're coming for us. So then, yeah, sometimes you need to come on. And here we go. Now there's the red triangle. Can we see that actually? Yeah, I think we can see that, yeah. So this is a very good system. And if I would put on the turning indicator, then it's also flashing and giving us an acoustic warning as well. Adaptive cruise control we can set here, left side of the steering wheel, pretty good and easily to control. Well, about the fuel economy, yeah, I mean this engine here is actually quite thirsty, so some 9 liters on 100 kilometers, have to calculate with that, so that's less than 30 mpg, definitely less than 30 mpg US, and maybe some more than 30 mpg UK, and overall that's of course not really good. If we go to the sports mode, by the way, all-wheel drive system changes from 80-20 to 70-30, and let's accelerate 70
well, 65 to 100. Plop, that's it. And the sound was actually quite decent. And you see also the acceleration is quite decent. So this 4-cylinder engine does give us some nice performance. And again, I changed to the sports mode before, so we have a little bit more power at the rear wheels. That makes the car also feel a little bit sportier. Also, we have the adaptive suspension here built in this vehicle. That's an option. And let's say at the compact Mercedes models, it does not make such a big difference than with the compact Volkswagen AG models, like, you know, VW, Audi, Seat, Skoda. There, the adaptive suspension makes a massive difference. You should always go for it. Here with the Mercedes cars, if you have one of the bigger engines, which is also in this case here, or the GLA in general, you know, there are, like with a lot of other compact vehicles, two different kinds of rear axles. One, like say, more basic one, and one more elaborated one. This here, the GLA, always comes with the more elaborated one in the rear already. With the A-Class, it depends on which engine size you pick. So you can also go with the base suspension and you'll be just fine. Yes, definitely. The adaptive suspension does make it more comfortable a little bit, but then you can also vary a little bit with wheel choices. Here we do have 20-inch wheels. Together with the adaptive suspension, it's still surprisingly fine. So I expected a little bit worse, but that's surprisingly good actually. If you want more comfort, or if you go for the standard suspension, definitely go for smaller wheels. I mean, 20-inch on the GLA, I think it's also too big, and you know, a little bit more dampening from the tires is surely something that, you know, that would be more suitable for this car. We can also go, by the way, to the off-road mode that is possible, and that would then change the distribution 50-50 front rear. Maximum speed 110 kilometers an hour, and it also has, you know, effect on the ESC, how that works, that you can drive a little bit better off-road if off-road situation would happen in a Mercedes GLA. Not sure if that's often the case, you know. Anyways, noise insulation is actually quite decent, so we have it reasonably silent in here. It's also a good motorway vehicle because you have this upright seating position. Remember, 40 centimeters higher than in the Mercedes A-Class. It does feel somewhat similar to the Mercedes B-Class in driving, yes, which is not a bad thing at all, just a little bit higher then, so I would rather compare it with the B-Class. Definitely there's a difference to the A-Class, more notable one. With the B-Class indeed, I would say this really feels like a put-up B-Class. So, but again, this is a good thing, because the B-Class is, to me, one of the best vehicles in the Mercedes lineup, price-performance wise. Yes, of course, not the most emotional one, but this could then be an alternative here with the GLA, a little bit more this, you know, SUV emotional kind of approach instead of just the compact van. Again, it doesn't feel too much different, but you have upright seating position, pretty comfortable, so it's a good thing that you have a small vehicle still, not with a big exterior length, and still have a comfortable ride, and I think that's also something really cool. So once again, cruise control. So we get off the motorway here, so actually quite good and silent here, behavior on the motorway. Let's see, when we put the brakes, I have actually a good feeling in the brakes here, so can't complain about that. And overall this car feels, you know, really refined. If we compare the previous generation GLA, it didn't feel so much as an, you know, like an SUV. This one here now more has this grown-up SUV feeling. That's to me one of the most important things about this vehicle. What they also wanted to change, and also to, you know, distance it a little bit from A and B class. That this one here is more than, you know, the true small SUV. Then you might think about the Mercedes GLB, which is on almost the same platform. So a derivative, you know, like similar building type, a lot of similarities, especially in the front. A little bit different from the wheelbase because it's based on the A-Class long platform then, which is sold in China. This one here definitely feels sportier, easier to drive because of the shorter wheelbase. Same wheelbase as Mercedes B-Class and Mercedes A-Class. So it's a very nice and agile ride. Also when you do some lane changes here, for example, that's easily done. So it feels light and easy and sporty to drive. Even though we don't have like a special AMG version here or so, it's really a lot of fun to drive. And that you sit a little bit higher, and then I don't feel that the car would move too much or so you can still have a lot of driving fun, just that it's more relaxed. So if you ask me, from A-Class, B-Class and the GLA, which one would I pick? Probably this one, and the reason is the A-Class is less comfortable to me, especially if you're a little bit taller, seating position wise and so on. The B-Class is you know, very good car, definitely. Also felt actually quite sporty to drive. But then, you know, it has this, you know, compact family stamp, you know, compact family car stamp. So the GLA has a little bit more lifestyle factor to me. Yeah, I mean, that's something very subjective, and I always do that mistake because I'm so used to drive this. And this one here, of course, you know, also just visually wise, you know, from the exterior, a little bit different. It looks a little bit more off-roadish and so on. And, you know, I'm also like this off-road guy. I really like off-road cars and so on. So this would be then more suitable to me. But all the compact Mercedes cars nowadays come really close. Also the CLA is on the same platform. So there's not so much difference anymore. But I think that's also a good thing, because then you also have the, you know, the MBUX system from Standard Equipment. Even if you have the smaller screens, you have the upgraded bigger ones, you know. So I have to say again, you know, from all the different behaviors, comfort, motorway, it's really easy to steer this car around in the city. The steering is light, but has a good feeling, so it has a natural feeling. Then the upgraded assistance system, that's of course very cool. Everything feels really refined and just how it's supposed to be. And on the length of this vehicle on the exterior, you get a lot of car on the inside already. And so there's so much positive to say about this vehicle. There are actually just really two things I can complain about. This is A, the fuel consumption, which is too high, and B, the price, because this car is ridiculously expensive. I mean, 3,500 euros extra if you compare it to a B-Class, let's say like a B-Class 250 or a GLA 250 4MATIC. It's about 3,500 euros difference. But then if you look at this very car here, with the Edition 1, extra equipment, sound system, wheels, and so on and so on and so on. This car, the very exact car we're driving here at the moment, a Mercedes GLA, almost doubles the entry price, you know, which is, you know, depending on also on the engine version or something, 30 something, you know, you can get a decently spec'd for 40, 45, and that's not even cheap. But this one here now, with everything you see, up around 70k euros. What? Yeah, so that's probably the biggest problem with this vehicle. Everything else is pretty decent.
And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Mercedes GLA. So, biggest difference to the predecessor is this is now more of an SUV, whereas the predecessor was clearly a crossover. There's also a bigger difference than from the A-Class to this one. As I said earlier, they all share the same platform, A-Class, B-Class, CLA, and also the GLA here. And there's still some difference, of course, to the GLB, which is a little bit longer, can also house 7 passengers, and is just bigger from the inside. But this one here already has a very decent size on the interior, and especially this comparison, exterior length to interior space, the same as with the B-Class. It's really very, very good. So you have a lot of space, especially also on the rear bench. although you still have a relatively small car that you can very well park in and out, very easy to control, easy to steer. The whole car feels very refined. It's very silent on the motorway, so it's definitely one of the best compact SUVs, no doubt about that, in the very different aspects. And pretty fancy as also for the MBUX infotainment system. The natural voice input is also one of the best on the market here at the moment. So, and of course, you sit higher than in the A-Class, so it's more comfortable, and even a little bit more comfortable if you compare it to the B-Class, but also a little bit more expensive. And that's the point. So many great things about this vehicle, but I also said in the end of the driving part, the fuel consumption is a little bit too high with about 8 to 9 at least liters on 1 kilometers. So you should get better figures there. But with all the particle filters nowadays, which are good that they have, there's more pressure against the exhaust system. That might be one of the reasons for that. Yet again, the overprice for the extras and so on, yeah, that can really be very expensive. So we have to see. Probably I would go for this engine, but front-wheel drive, because the all-wheel drive doesn't make too much of a difference then for this vehicle, unless you really need it. So you can maybe save some fuel, save some money for the entry price. So go for the GLA 250 front-wheel drive, and then limit the option list somewhat, because, as I said, when you go for this car here with all these specs, it gets so super expensive. I told you that in the driving part at the end of that. Yeah, and that's of course the second thing about this car. It's just too expensive. Yeah, but that's what you have to pay then for one of the top in the segment. I'm glad you joined us here for a full review of the Audi Q3 Sportback. Is it just a cut-off Q3 or what is it? Here on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. With Thomas, we're going to take you on a tour on the exterior, interior, and today a very fun driving experience here in the Black Forest. It will be really amazing, I can promise you. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far. And now join us in full HD, full screen, and full length. Let's go. In the front, Q3 and Q3 Sportback are somewhat similar indeed, with this huge front grille, but very, big stance on the road. Here the S-Line package with a lot of sporty contrast, lower part, and also those silver contrast right there. So beautiful job, I think. And also has those special bright accentuations inside the honeycomb structure of the front grille. Turbo blue, yes, great color here for today. A real Thomas blue, a bright, strong blue, as we call it here on Autogefühl. Then those headlamps, they come LED as standard. Different trims available. The second trim already offers those turning indicators, which are in this cascading style. And those ones here are the optional matrix LED. Other than that, you see here the front accentuations right there. So S-Line package, as I said, overall a very, very sporty stance already for a small SUV. 4 meters 50, 14'8" or 177 inches is the length of the Q3 Sportback. That's 2 centimeters longer than the normal Q3, which, continues like that. But that's just, overhang from the spoilers. But it looks a little bit longer because it's a little bit flatter. So about 3 centimeters flatter here in this whole roofline. And of course, it's falling down right there, even more like all those SUV coupes as they are called. 17 to maximum 20-inch wheels. Those ones are the biggest 20-inch wheels. Then with those contrasting wheel arches, but there's not black plastic. You could see it's also painted then in black. Very interesting. S-Line badge. then wow, this turbo blue color looks amazing. And this one here also has this sporty stance right there. If you compare it to the normal, the mobile phone is still in the vehicle, car says on the inside, because I closed the car here with keyless entry. That way you open it again. So I think a very beautiful stance on the road here. I think it works quite well. It's not too dramatic. But then here, those stronger shoulders, very interesting. And always some information about the suspension. You start with a sport suspension, actually, with the Q3 Sportback. But then you can opt in, just without extra price, to the normal suspension, which we could recommend. Or if you can spend the money, to the adaptive suspension, then you have a little bit more variety and comfort. We also have that today to test for you. I definitely wanted to show you the 3/4 rear perspective. This is really impressive, and I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of SUV coupes or those cut-off SUVs, but I think in this case it really works very well design-wise. Or what's your take on that? Also with the S-Line, again, sporty accentuations, especially right here with this diffuser style, and very modern LED signature in the rear. And by the way, talking about braking, the autonomous emergency brake is standard equipment, and then optional more assistance systems like the ACC, adaptive cruise control, and also blind spot monitor and so on. We'll also test those systems here today in the driving test. And the straight rear perspective for you, definitely this is design object, so the main reason to go for the Q3 Sportback and not for the normal Q3 is design. Yes, everyone knows there will be a little bit less space on the interior. How much? We will soon find out. And by the way, the 35 TFSI 35, it stands for nothing. They just put those levels. Of course, higher numbers means more power and lower. But it doesn't make any logical sense, and I'm always confused myself. And here on our long format, we always like to show you different variations, different colors. Here, this one is called Myth Black or Mythos Schwarz. That would be the one in German. And this here also together with this first edition that you also have the black Audi rings and the black accentuations. Overall, really a dark style. And especially here in this rear 3/4 perspective, it looks really menacing here as the Q3 Sportback. This one also with 20-inch wheels, but in a different style. So, what would be your pick as for the color? For me, of course, the turbo blue. And we also have 2 more colors in our studio episode. The orange one and the white car. So if you're even more interested in colors and trims, we will always link interesting other or fitting episodes in the video description and in the pinned comment. So if you're finished with this review here, also tune in to more. And this one here, by the way, is the 45 TFSI, so this is the strongest petrol engine so far, also with all-wheel drive. We will also compare this one to the smaller 1.5 liter petrol engine today here. So first the small petrol engine, later the bigger one. And what we can also see at the rear, this one is the first new Audi without any fake exhaust. You got this diffuser style here with the S-Line, but there are no fake exhaust anymore. So, big step forward, and I think everyone here agrees that fake exhaust are not really, a good thing. So here, a rather clean design, I think. Thumbs up. All 4-cylinder engines here, and front-wheel drive for the smaller ones, all-wheel drive for the bigger ones. Look at that one here. This one is the new 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine with 150 horsepower and a mild hybrid system. So coasting or sailing between 40 and 160 kilometers an hour, for example, and an electric boost, 10 seconds, 12 horsepower, very interesting. 6-speed manual gearbox, front-wheel drive, or optional the 7-speed DSG, the S-Tronic. Then there is a 2-liter turbo petrol engine with 190 horsepower or 230. Had the 230 one all with the Q3 review, check out that one. Always made it to a 7-speed DCT or S-Tronic as they call it, and all-wheel drive. And then a diesel 2-liter, 2 horsepower specs, 150 or 190. And then also the first one with manual and the other one then with the S-Tronic and also AWD or front-wheel drive. Well, not too complicated, this engine lineup, pretty clean, this whole engine bay. Will this mild hybrid system work? I'm not sure, but we will test it. With the big turbo petrol engine, we had about 9 liters of fuel consumption with the Q3 now. That was too high. But this one here today? Let's see. This is the car key. Nothing new there. Door closing sound. Ah, nice, as Brian would say. Best greetings to our reporter, Brian. So here, let's say a little bit of soft touch. It's not super hard pack, but it's not soft as well. It's like something in between. But this is nice. This reverse door handle. It's actually also quite practical. Then nice quality also from the window levers. And nice Alcantara inserts right there. Huge inner door pockets. This is very practical. Optional Bang & Olufsen sound system. It's really worth it in this case. It's a great optional sound system. We really love the sound. S-Line entry badge in the lower part. Then here, because we also have the S-Line interior. Then soon more to all the digital instruments and so on. This one is a sporty steering wheel with a flat bottom. Then a lot of black piano lacquer is being used. That they are not, my favorite, but can't be everything in my favorite. Also not those animal skin seats. They cost a lot of extra money and really warm in summer times and cold in winter times. But I can tell you, there are, at least in Europe, fabric seats available, both in normal form, and then this one is a sport seat, so 2 seat forms, normal and sport seats. And for both, you can get it all in fabric. And for this seats, you could also get more Alcantara. It's a mixing of Alcantara, leatherette, and some animal parts. But this one here is the one with most animal parts. But overall, Audi here in the Q3 and Q3 Sportback already reduced the amounts of animal skin parts. Recently seen also the Porsche Taycan review, where they also have one animal-free interior. So even if some people still criticize me for feeling with animals, sorry, it's coming. So then you can put the steering wheel in and out and up and down. And a nice cozy position here. So it's not a super high SUV, but also not a somewhat more low crossover, something in between. 1.86 or 6'1", and without the panoramic roof, you can get a lot of headroom right there. So you can get a cozy seating position also as a tall driver. This front part here is manually, just longer or shorter, and here also electric seats. But again, one problem is so many options, so many extras. Configuring this car is pain in the and the price always goes up. By the way, the Sportback here is about 2,500 euros more expensive than normal Q3. It has some more extra or like standard equipment than the other one, but still it will be a little bit more expensive. Interior overview. First of all, a very clean layout and interesting here with the Alcantara dash and an additional Audi logo. Yeah, a lot of black piano lacquer here again. You have to clean this all over the place, definitely. And the sporty steering wheel, but could be a little bit smaller, maybe. Right side for the volume control, left side to control the digital instruments right there. By the way, if you see the check engine light, that's always the case when the ignition is on. It will just fade out when you turn on the engine actually. Soft touch here at the top of the dashboard, and then there will be different screen layouts available. It starts here with 8.8, a smaller one. Optional this, 10.1 inch. And on the left side, always digital instruments, but it starts with a 10.25 inch and then optional 12.3 inch. Come on, why don't you just put this one and that's it? 2 different sizes of digital instruments? Seriously? Yeah. But soon more deals to this top setup. Here, this one here still has my favorite climate unit. Clicking sound and nice LED visualization and easy to control it while driving, and a volume knob in the lower part. Drive select right here. Soon talking more about the drive modes. And the lower part you have an inductive charging pad. That's cool because you now also have wireless Apple CarPlay. Still also available with cable connection. For example, right side here, USB-C now and the classic USB, both are available in the front. Then you have the automatic shifting lever. Below that, adaptive cup holders, they do a good job. And then there's this armrest, which is well attached and some more space underneath. So overall, the offering of space in the interior in the front here is quite good. And those top virtual instruments, you can change the view, have the full GPS map or have more of your driving data and so on. Then you can also have the music info right there or the consumption figure. And this one, like, is the highest one with bending corners. It will be rather lower towards 6 liters or 100 kilometers if you really want to drive more efficient. So you can get to a 40s MPG region also with this engine. So virtual cockpit here, they are among the best in the segment, I think. So a really good job, crystal clear to read, and they just look great and also flexible as what you want to show. This whole middle console area is, by the way, turned about 10 degrees to the driver. Then now deals with the infotainment system. This is the home menu, all via touch, and there's just the touch control indeed. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth or here the Apple CarPlay. In this case, I've already connected this wirelessly, and Android Auto is also available. And here, nice integration. They use all of the screen. And yeah, again, this sound system, the Bang & Olufsen sound system, is really cool. Nice song, by the way. It has a very great 3D surround sound, so excellent for a small vehicle. Pretty cool. Then back to the MMI. Of course, we want to take a look at the GPS, which has a nice CPU, so fast enough. We've seen it nowadays already a little bit faster, yes, but I think also the visual character of it, you can very well see where you're heading to. And controlling it while driving is also, let's say, somewhat okay. Overall, I'm quite happy with the infotainment system. Everything is clear to read, and the whole menu is also pretty easy. So quite intuitive where you find something. Also, when you, for example, change display brightness or something like that. So everything, and also this feedback, by the way. You hear those clicking sounds. You can also turn it off or leave it on. And of course, you can also get a rear view camera right there with a very nice resolution. And there's also this fake drone view from above, including the front camera and also the side cameras here at the mirrors. So that's definitely a good option. And one of my favorite details is always a frameless top mirror. It's always just elegant, and at the same time, it gives you a good view to the rear. So now to the rear door. And well, in the front, there weren't too many differences. The rear, by the way, hardback top part and Alcantara inserts here and reasonable door space also. And we have somewhat the same styling here in the rear. You can always see they have a little bit less legroom than in the normal Q3. The difference is that the rear bench can be moved front and the back 15 centimeters in normal Q3 and 13 centimeters right here. So again, you lose 2 centimeters of legroom. And that means that, I mean, it directly fits here with 4 tall adults. With the normal new Q3, it was, you know, like definitely more roomish. Yeah, maybe I could move the seat a little bit more forward. I could still drive like this or something. It's okay. You can still use this car very well. At the moment, the bench is all the way back, but you can also slide it forward like this in a 2/3, 1/3 split. And it was also quite cool. Here you can vary the angle of the seat right there. So why can it be slid all the way back? Yeah, because of the falling roofline, because everyone would hit the ceiling with the head. And here at the moment like this, it's still okay. It directly fits. So yes, you can still use this car. There's no problem. But of course you lose, this is the space where you lose some of the practicability. But overall, the seating position in the rear is still decently comfortable. With those latches, by the way, you can also completely flip the seats from here. Push it back. Isofix is at the outside of those seats each. Then we have those cup holders, which also are somewhat adaptive in the middle part. And the ski hatch. Yes, there we go. Press this one here and then like this. And yeah, it gets a little bit squeezed in right there. There's a middle tunnel, and then you have some climate unit here, but nothing to adjust that much. 12-volt power supply in the lower part, and yeah, pretty dark in there now. 2 more USB-C devices. Well, some disadvantages in the rear compartment, but what about the trunk? Well, first of all, the trunk liter capacity is 530 liters. That's identical to the one of the non-Sportback Q3. The reason is it's measured below this cover here, and you lose the height above the cover. Yeah, so that only plays a role if you really stack it up all the way to the window, maybe for going on holiday with the whole family. Then of course the normal Q3 is better, and the full with flipped seats capacity, there you have a difference of 1,400 to 1,525 liter in the normal Q3. So that's the difference then. Got some luggage set up here for you. They can still see how it fits, but I can also put it out that you have a clear view then. Like this. There is this net available. You can also put it out, but you can secure things underneath. Here then you have the sound system underneath, or if you don't have the sound system, you could also put a replacement tire if you like. And flipping seat is not possible from here. I'll soon go all the way around. The normal length here is 93 centimeters, 94 centimeters, and the width about, a little bit less than a meter actually. And below this cover you have a height of a little bit less than 40 centimeters. Well, and now I have to go around to use those latches. I could, by the way, also move the whole thing forward. So this one would be, the maximum. And then you can see, there's a gap then here. But when you need a little bit longer trunk at some point, other than that, when you flip the seats, of course, better leave it like this. I have to go all the way around to the other side. Yeah, that takes a while here in this vehicle. And then we can have the full flip like this. Yeah, I can push this one here a little bit further down. With electric seats, you don't have the possibility to flip the co-driver seat. So, and then, some motorcyclists on the way now. Beautiful roads. And then we got here, yes, thank you for the exhaust. Thank you. Okay, now you can hear me again. Or not. Come on, seriously? Yeah, about that. 1.70 m, you have already seen it. And interior variation for you. You can see the Alcantara can also be bought in blue. And I really love it. It looks so amazing. I'm just not sure yet, in contrast to the whole black interior. I mean, you got it here as well, and there on the top of the, this middle dashboard, so to say, and also at the other side. What do you think about it? So I love this blue Alcantara, but I'm not quite sure yet if it's really, if it's too big of a contrast to the all-black car. Maybe it would have been better if, you got more gray elements. And we had so many questions in our initial static review. Does the Q3 Sportback also offer a panoramic roof? Yes, it does. This one here is a vehicle with one. You have this shade right there. It's a little bit shorter than in the Q3 SUV here in the Sportback. Here you can open it, and it's not only a panoramic glass roof, you can also open it like this. So let's see, how far does it open? There we go, that's it. Again, it's shorter than in the Q3 SUV. And of course, it reduces the head clearance already in the front. Here with 1.86 or 6.1, I still have some headroom left, yes, but it's definitely way less than if we would not have it. But how does it look like in the rear? Due to this falling roofline, it looks a little bit disturbing from the outside when the panoramic glass roof is opened, doesn't it? And then the blue Alcantara is also at the inside of the rear doors. And now let's see if we get here in the rear. What about the head clearance? So you see, it does end already right here. So indeed, it doesn't make a big difference than in the rear headroom. It's again close as in the other version, but you can surely do that. So it would be more of a problem if it would be continued all the way. But probably all the designers or engineers said, yeah, if we would continue that one all the way, first of all, it's too curved, this roof, and then it would not be possible to sit here in the rear with the head clearance. So yeah, it's surely an option you can go for. Again, it looks really strange from the exterior then when it's open, but it might be a lot of fun to drive with it with open top. But always remind yourself, such a panoramic roof is also let's say, a weak part with the car, as insulation, water, noises, rattling noises. I remember owning a car with a panoramic roof, and after a while it got some rattling noises, and then you have maybe apply some lubricants or something that they work again. Yeah, but on the other hand, I really enjoy open top driving, especially convertibles, and that's then sometimes a compromise when you cannot go for a convertible but still want some fresh air. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Audi Q3 Sportback, here with the 1.5-liter TSI turbo petrol engine, 7-speed dual clutch transmission. S-Tronic is their brand name for that. Alternatively, it would be a 6-speed manual gearbox, and since we are in those winding mountain corners here, we put the dynamic mode.
Then the RPMs go a little bit higher. The car keeps in a rather lower gears, and we have sportier driving fun. We have the adaptive suspension here. Remember, the sport suspension would be standard for the Q3 Sportback, but you can easily opt for the normal suspension without any extra costs. And then optional, the adaptive suspension, which is, again, adapting to the settings you have and also constantly adapting even inside those settings. And this makes a wider span of comfort and sportiness at the same time. So here in the sports mode, we have a little bit more feedback from suspension. That's good here because the roads are very well paved here at the moment. So there are, no comfort losses in this case. Then, of course, you will lose some comfort then in the sports mode when there are some bumps in the road. And the big wheels here on the car, yeah, I mean, for sporty driving, they're quite cool now. But if you want more comfort, you would also go for smaller ones. And the car feels very well balanced also, very well to control. So that's pretty cool. Now we go a little bit slower, soon we go a little bit faster again. You see also I don't have to steer that much, so this steering is very progressive, as we say here. So the more you steer, the more input there is also, and then you can keep both hands at the steering wheel all the time, especially this progressive steering together with the adaptive suspension. So now a little bit faster in acceleration. This 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine is also enough as for the performance. Now we're going a little bit fast in the corner here. Wow, that feels very nice. Pretty cool. Look at that. So how stable the car remains, and we're still talking about the SUV segment here, or at least crossover, and this is giving me fantastic feedback, fantastic feeling from the steering, and also the lane assist is not intervening. We recently had that, for example, in the Škoda Kamiq, which is of course a little bit smaller, but we had to deactivate the lane assist and when we were doing those winding corners. But here actually it maybe realizes what we're doing, and so it's not intervening at all at the moment. It's also deactivating itself partly, and wow, I'm almost feeling like we are on the Nordschleife. I'm not, exceeding any speed limit here, but that feels fantastic. And I would buy such a vehicle when I want more comfort, more higher seating position and so on, and that's the case here indeed with the car. But at the same time, sometimes you lose driving fun then maybe, like sporty driving fun with the SUVs, but here not at all. So we're in the Black Forest region here for you today, Schwarzwald, the famous German Schwarzwald, and actually the opposite side than we were in the in the area in France. So very interesting also geologically. Got to look up the history, like 65 million years ago. Everything went down and there was erosion on both sides, so it was almost 4,000 meters high, and now today it's 1,000 meters because there was like millions of years of erosion. Pretty interesting geological story here, and this is just a fantastic ride. Here now the road gets a little bit rougher. Here in the sports mode we also feel that a little bit more, but still pretty cool. And again, enough power, although also we are going uphill all the time. There is also this electric boost function from the small generator, about 12 horsepower, when I'm really throwing it out. But I mean, it's not that you would directly realize it. Now also the recuperation function that is possible, also not that you directly realize that. Soon after this dynamic part, we'll also take this car out a little bit more on some more calmer roads and more everyday driving life experience and so on. So I can tell you more about that. At the moment, rather the fun, agile driving. And is there any difference, the Q3 and Q3 Sportback? As for that, no, it really depends on the suspension you pick. That's, making most difference. Wow. Look at, I can really just, when it's 90 degrees corner, I need to turn the steering wheel 90 degrees. That's fantastic. So what a great driving experience here. So much fun to drive this car. And I mean, it's a premium car and it's not cheap at all, but still segment-wise. And if you think about other premium vehicles which are way more expensive, this one is still one you can use everyday driving life. As for the flexibility you have, and it's really a lot of fun. So good suspension feedback, nice steering. This is really a very flawless experience. The sport seats are also keeping us tight. It's good that we have a little bit more support. It would be even better if those were the fabric or Alcantara surfaces, because here on the animal skin you slide around a little bit more. Wow. I could keep you on camera here, guys, all day, especially on those beautiful roads here. I hope you're really enjoying that together with me as we do. Olga, how are you feeling?
Yeah, fine.
Olga's good. That's always a good sign, and always asking my co-driver. And we always call the guy next to me co-driver, because that's rally style, So yeah, way to go. So much fun here. I wouldn't have expected it in a Q3 SUV. I mean, yes, we have driven the Q3 SUV before. Then here the Sportback, again similar. Of course, you maybe somehow feel a little bit sportier, because you just know, like, from the design exterior-wise. And yes, the roofline is a little bit lower, so maybe that's a very subtle, subjective feeling that accounts for that. And of course, wow, this turbo blue. I mean, when you look at that, you see it in the mirrors. When you look to the front, on the front hood, you see that it has this turbo blue color. Or maybe this screen is flickering, by the way, in the camera. I'm not sure. Put that off now. So it's not flickering in real life. Again, this one is just flickering on camera then, maybe. Wow. By the way, the brakes now, so going from 90 to 60. Not really hammering it through, but just, that was already 40. So good braking performance, even downhill. And again, this car gives you such a controlled handling experience. We know the platform already from the Volkswagen AG. It is very well known. But it really gives you a great balance. And, well, if you have an all-wheel drive version of the Q3 or Q3 Sportback, also doesn't change too much. It's more that, the higher horsepower figures are usually combined then with automatic gearbox and all-wheel drive, and the lower horsepower figures are not. And then it's a front-wheel drive platform, of course. This doesn't make the biggest difference. When it's maybe slippery on winter times, you might need an all-wheel drive version, but that shouldn't be the main deciding factor when doing your purchase. This 1.5 definitely interesting with the new MHEV technology and also sufficient power. Of course, doesn't mean that you have to go for this one, not for the 2-liter one. But sticking with the little bit smaller engines also saves you some money in the entry price. So I think, in this turbo blue exterior with the 1.5 petrol, that should be a pretty decent pick for this car. Against some slalom. Holger's like, but I mean, it's still quite okay, especially in dynamic mode. If we would compare that here to the normal auto mode, for example, let's see how that one plays out. Yeah, maybe shakes a little bit more, but still, even in the normal auto mode, you can drive this vehicle very well also in a dynamic fashion. So the first sporty dynamic impression here from driving, I mean, also for this segment, it's fantastic. And I would even say that this is, definitely segment leading. Maybe together with one or two other cars or so on. We had a great driving experience in the BMW X2 M35i. Yeah, that's a little bit complicated as a name. That was also pretty amazing as a driving experience, for example. So you should also check out that review, definitely. So the X2 was also great in driving, especially also with the adaptive suspension. They are even more that the pure sport suspension is too stiff. But here again, such a flawless experience with this vehicle.
I feel always safe.
Yeah, Holger feels safe, and that's, of course, as a co-driver, the most important thing. I mean, I can always hold onto the steering wheel. I know where the road is going. I feel it before, and when the co-driver feels safe, then that's an even better sign. Welcome to the motorway. Blind spot monitor here. See, when I'm using the turning indicators, it was also flashing. Of course, they have the light when the car's approaching from the rear, on the blind spot, and then even more flashing when you hit the turning indicator. So it's a definitely good safety feature, and would also be one of my favorites from this option list. I can show you once more. You know, again, just flashes constantly, and as soon as I would put the turning, yeah, a little bit too late now, when I put the turning indicator, then it's like flashing very fastly. Now to some everyday driving situations. So here at the moment, I'll accelerate out to 100 kilometers. And then I also set the cruise control. See a separate stalk column left next to the steering wheel. At 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour, sound insulation is quite decent, so it remains very calm and silent. The adaptive suspension is doing a great job of, you know, really keeping this car steady, so it's sporty enough, but at the same time very comfortable. If you would go here to the sports mode, then you would have actually less comfort. You feel some damages in the road a little bit more and so on. The sports mode definitely was more helpful in those winding corners earlier. Here just keep it with the auto or comfort, so that's definitely cozy. And what's also cool, when you set the cruise control and also have the lane assistant activated, so this is the highest build we have here for that, it feels very natural. There's not much annoying intervention. We sometimes have those situations where you have very annoying intervention by those lane assist systems, but not the case here. And if I tend to run off the road here, see here, car is very smoothly keeping me in the lane. Don't try this at home, kids, please. So just demo purposes here. So that was a very smooth reaction, better than the braking intervention like we know from some Mercedes models. And wow, really impressive. Traffic sign recognition also. Then the ACC can also adapt to that, for example. Let's see if the ACC does it now, but maybe it's not the highest build as for that. But overall, very convincing as for the assistant systems. Now it's showing me 70, and there's also the next speed camera approaching. And what's also very interesting, since we have those, you know, new mild hybrid systems that are evolving, this one here, the MHEV in the 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine, let's go to the efficiency mode, because that makes it easier for us to trigger that mode. It does not work really when being in the cruise control mode. So you have to go out of the cruise control with short braking maneuver or something, put it a little bit bigger, and then when I'm here then in the efficiency mode and then I let off the throttle, I see the RPM drops to 0. So just rolling and coasting now, and this can save some fuel, but of course only when it makes sense. Here when I want to keep the speed anyways, it doesn't make any sense. But if you see like, oh, like ahead there's like a traffic jam coming or something, or I'm going downhill for a longer time and I don't want to increase the speed really, well, now maybe it could be a situation. So it runs between 40 and 160 kilometers for this you know, MHEV coasting here, for example. Now I see this new traffic sign. We're also going downhill. I don't need any acceleration. Then here again, and this MHEV system then, the small battery, keeps all the electric consumers running, and those cars are rolling computers, meanwhile they need a lot of electricity for whatever, you know, also AC and so on. So this is an interesting solution. It does save 0.5 liters on 100 kilometers on paper. Will it have the very same effect in the real driving life? Not so sure about that. But what we can say is that the overall fuel consumption is somewhat decent here. Maybe because of the system, maybe not, or maybe because the engine itself is quite efficient. About 6 liters in 100 kilometers. And when you are then in those, you know, about 40 mpg range, this is actually quite good for a car of that size and the weight and the flexibility and so on. So actually quite satisfied with that, and I think then it also doesn't make sense to go for the more expensive diesel. Maybe depends on the market, yes, but I think this fuel consumption is low enough then, especially then here with the new MHEV system, which is exclusive so far in the Q3 and Q3 Sportback with the 1.5 turbo. Very interesting. And then of course you also have this over boost or special boost function, 12 horsepower for about 10 seconds. We can try that once more here. For example, we go back to the dynamic mode, and then there's also a gear lower. Of course, we could also take an even lower gear, for example, but let's see how the kick down works here from 50 to 100. That's it. Yeah, maybe I was a little bit too early because the instruments were lagging a little bit behind, but yeah, it almost came close. So 50 to 100 and still quite decent. So of course you don't have like a super big acceleration or something because it's a small engine, but still totally sufficient. As for the power for this one, the steering here is again quite progressive, as I told you in the more agile driving part. And indeed it proves my point also, this vehicle is something for every situation, you know. It's not too big, you can still use it in the city for finding some parking spots. But it's not too small, you can still fit, you know, luggage inside, even here in the Sportback version where you just have a little bit less leg room. It drives definitely similar Q3 and Q3 Sportback, there's no big difference, it's the same wheelbase. It's more about the suspension you pick, and this adaptive suspension, definitely recommendation if you have the extra money for that. Otherwise stay with a base suspension, because the sport suspension is too stiff for everyday driving life, you know, unless you really, really want that. Wheels, I do feel we have the biggest wheels mounted here. So if you want more comfort, go for smaller wheels. So the question then visuals on the outside and the comfort you have then on the inside. So the adaptive suspension is evening that out a little bit, yes. But again, you will have more comfort if you go for some smaller wheels, definitely. But overall, I mean, you're just also in a normal mode. Good slalom character for this vehicle. It just feels agile at any time and comfortable enough at any time. So this is a great compromise as for this one. Here in the auto mode, you see we don't drop in the RPMs, but as soon as I go to the efficiency mode and let the car roll or something, you know, in the very braking maneuver, but usually in the efficiency mode, that drops into 0 and you can just use this rolling or coasting function. So you can definitely play around with those driving modes. Yeah. So, you know, very convincing in all the different aspects. Also how the ACC acts, again, and of course also, you know, with the blind spot monitor, of course, which, you know, is appearing then here in the mirror. So very good assistance systems available also for this car. And now, as a comparison, the so far top petrol engine for this normal Q3 or Q3 Sportback lineup, the 45 TFSI. This was a 2-liter turbo petrol engine, here then with 230 horsepower and all-wheel drive. So the one we've driven before, less displacement, but with the MHEV, with this, you know, electric boost, and also with the, you know, better little bit of recuperation, better sailing, coasting function. And front-wheel drive, and this one then all-wheel drive and more power under the hood. So all-wheel drive will make sense again in, let's say, harsh conditions or so, alpine regions. And that you can also just live with the front-wheel drive. This car will never have any rear-wheel bias, even in this all-wheel drive. It's front plus rear on demand. So when you have it, you know, like steady, slow speeds and so on, it will still be most front-wheel based. Here, even in the all-wheel drive version, then the more you apply the throttle, the more power will be transported to the rear wheels. And we can also show you some acceleration difference here. We can go to the dynamic mode. And we're also in this S-shifting mode, and we accelerate now from 80 to 120. Plop, that's it. So yes, that definitely goes quicker here in this one, so you definitely have more power, no wonder about that. However, I have to say, we also had a lot of fun with the smaller engine, because the main fun factor about this car here is actually the agility in driving. And that's the same setup here today for both cars, 20-inch wheels together with the adaptive suspension. Again, me and also some colleagues here on location, we were, you know, pretty much agreeing that 18 or 19-inch is still a good compromise. You have great visual, and I would probably go for 18-inch. You have more comfort, but still a nice visual. And if you want better visual, then 19-inch, it's still a little bit more comfort than those 20-inch wheels. Yeah, but and I think this 1.5-liter turbo petrol engine was very interesting to drive as well. Here now, of course, on the motorway, when you have some acceleration time and possibility, here also at higher. Sounds a little bit more aggressive also. Yeah, just, you know, you're definitely way quicker on the motorway. In the city, it won't play such a big role between those two engines, but definitely here on the motorway. So if you're driving on the motorway frequently and have also some, frequent overtaking maneuvers, then this 2-liter TFSI, especially in the top horsepower spec, will have an advantage for you. But you've also seen that it still works with a smaller engine because you can use that turbo, and together with the MHEV system you can especially save some fuel if you rather keep it steady. So we have driven this one here already in the normal Q3 and scored some fuel consumption of about 9 liters in 100 kilometers. I'll reset it here now and see what we can score when we keep it steady here at cruise control at about 120 kilometers an hour. Another cruise control test here as well. So that system is working really very nicely. By the way, controlling the mirrors here with the electric functions also flawlessly done. That's pretty cool. AEB, the autonomous emergency brake, is standard equipment with this car, and then the ACC and also the blind spot monitor, that's an option. So if you just let it roll here on the motorway, then you can also score some very quite low consumption figures, but not as low as with the other smaller engine. And then again, the consumption will raise if you hammer it a little bit more. So the question is then, do you want to pay more money for the more powerful engine, and you will pay more money in the long run because of the higher fuel consumption? Here at the moment, still about 8 liters to 1 kilometers, although I have reset it and set cruise control, so we definitely see a significant difference in the fuel consumption figure. Really depends on the use. For most usages, I think I would recommend this new MF engine. It was pretty cool, and we also had it now at the very early stage, definitely. I really have to say I like the blue Alcantara here I mentioned earlier, and it brings some joy in the interior. I was thinking a little bit about the contrast definitely to the all black interior. I would have found it a little bit more beautiful if they would use some gray colors, that it's not that harsh for a contrast, and gray fits better to blue than black to blue, I think. But other than that, I think it brings a lot of joy. So why not? I think the consumption won't drop below that, so very interesting. There's such a significant difference. Sometimes those bigger displacement engines are not necessarily worse as for the fuel consumption, but in this case, that's really the case. So, and now back to our motorway ride with a little bit more power. So you see once more here the turning indicator, and then it also flashes. So again, what a convincing ride from both engines, definitely, but the 1.5 definitely the more interesting engine today, I think. Now a little bit higher speed, and didn't talk about the fuel, the noise insulation when we're at really high speeds, and now let's pick it up a little bit, and we're now at 150 kilometers an hour approximately, and that's still decently silent. I mean, it's an SUV, so you stand a little bit against the wind, but it's still in a good level. It's not what I would say it's the most silent ride ever, but considering we are about 150 kilometers an hour now, I think that's quite acceptable. So, what do you think? Which engine would you actually go for? Here now, I mean, you're at higher speeds and then you hit the throttle and there's still something coming. Yeah, so if you're a high-speed junkie, then of course this one will play an effect for you. Other than that, I think for the majority of customers, the 1.5 will be a very interesting choice.
And now to our conclusion for today with the Audi Q3 Sportback. Exterior design, yes, definitely sportier than the normal Q3, and also inside this segment, a really sporty and likable design, so with this little bit flatter roofline and so on, and especially here in the S-line and those big wheels, it looks really sporty. Always have to think about that the bigger wheels, of course, cost you some comfort. But overall, especially with the adaptive suspension, such a smooth ride, both very comfortable and very surprisingly sporty here in those winding corners. So just a flawless job in the driving part, among the best in segment. Interior also with the high quality. There are also non-animal skin choices available which are also doing a great job. So you have a choice right here. Also interesting Alcantara accentuations, a little bit more daring this interior concept. You lose a little bit of practicability if you compare it to the normal Q3. It's a little bit less legroom, but still it's a quite versatile car overall. If you see that, you can still use it as a primary vehicle in your everyday driving life, so that still works very well. Well, and then overall about this MHEV system here, the turbo petrol engine, yeah, you can get it low to 6 liters on 1 kilometer, that's good. And if you like really hammer it in those winding corners, we got maximum of about 9 liters, but still that's a very acceptable figure than at least the lower one, of course. So a very interesting concept and a car where, you know, most people can do something with. Not too big, not too small, comfortable enough, surprisingly sporty. Yeah, so overall, very good rating we can give here about the Audi Q3 Sportback. I hope you really enjoyed this episode here today. And, you know, as always, with most of the Audi cars, yeah, when it comes to pricing, that's definitely the biggest downside. Welcome to another episode of Autogefühl, here today with the Volvo XC40 T5 twin engine. So that's the PHEV version, the plug-in hybrid of this compact SUV. And as usual, here in Autogefühl, we'll present you all about the exterior, the interior, and the driving experience, together with the beautiful landscape, as you can already see. So please join us now in full HD, full screen, and full length. Let's go! In the front, the Volvo XC40 already has a strong look. The front grille here in the Momentum and Momentum Pro trim, which that one is, comes with those vertical fins, all black. In the inscription it would be chrome. That looks a little bit more elegant, but the inscription trim is also overpriced. So this one here, Momentum or Momentum Pro, is the way to go for. Then the Thor's Hammer LED signature. And full LED lamps come standard with the PHEV version here, because it's also somewhat upper trim. An option you can also get a dynamic cornering light. And already if you compare it to other cars in this segment, also you can see it's actually quite high. So it is a strong, already grown up SUV, although it's not the longest one. 4 meters 42, 14 foot 4 or 174 inches is the length of the Volvo XC40. And you can see you can get it with the contrasting roof, but you can also go with a unique color style, and that's probably also what I would do. Or what's your take on that? You can get an extreme variety of wheel sizes ranging from 17 to 21 inch. Wow, but this is a good compromise. 19 inch is good for the styling, but still quite okay as for the riding comfort. Also bear in mind that if you go for the nice looking R design package, you get a sports suspension that will be, for my taste, too stiff for this vehicle. You can see the crossover wheel arches, so you still remain with this SUV look, and everything quite upright, still, wide windows and interesting shape right here. You get a design line here, then the window raises there, so you have this additional area right there. In the rear we can see a quite clean design, this L shape of the tail lamps. Then in the rear they did not go for any fake exhaust, and I think that's good. That also keeps the design quite clean. Of course, all the Volvo SUVs, they look somewhat similar in the rear. So what do we have under the hood? Yay! Hydraulic struts we have! Awesome! Well, and this one here today, the PHEV, it's made to a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine. Total system output is 262 horsepower. There's a battery which is about 10 kilowatt hours in size, and the promised range is about 40 kilometers or 25 miles, the pure electric one. but it will be lower depending on the conditions. So it's not meant to be driven all electric. It's more like that you have this support, this hybrid mode, and those electric moments, so to say. And other lineup, in general, you can get this petrol engine just as a petrol engine, 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo. Then you can get a 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine, different horsepower specs, and also a 2-liter 4-cylinder diesel. And recently they also introduced mild hybrids, but they of course will have even less real effect on the fuel economy than this one. Interesting also, this has a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, whereas usually they use 8-speed converter automatic gearboxes. The reason for that is you can better combine it than with the electric engine to switch back and forth. And there's also space savings reasons, so that DCT can be integrated in a less space consuming way. And the battery, by the way, is placed in the middle, so in the underfloor of the car, so the rear trunk is also not affected. Interesting Swedish flag here. I wonder how long that one holds. So here in the left front part, near the driver door, there's the charging possibility for the cable, and it's just a 3.4 kilowatt AC charger. But again, the battery is not that big, so it won't take that long. But you can also just use the household plug if you just charge it overnight. And the fuel cap will be then on the opposite side in the rear. This is the car key with controls here at the side. It's not that practical, but at least it's slim that it fits very well into the pocket. Door closing sound. Yeah, quite solid, like that, and also solid door handles. And then at the inside of the doors, that's interesting, they use soft touch materials right there. Then you have different insert. This is like a modern aluminum style. It's not real aluminum, of course. And then there's also, for example, a matte bright wood available, which would be my favorite. Then at the lower part, you can see there's felt being used as a different material, and it's also cool because you can also produce that one in a sustainable way. And also, yeah, quite long door pockets, not too big, but actually quite long. And then the highlight, wow, those seats right here. This is the Momentum Pro level. For the XC40, you can get base fabric seats, but also those extended fabric seats, let's call them that way, because they have the Scandinavian design with grey fabric on the inside, like a very high-class furniture from, Sweden or Denmark. Oh, I shouldn't mention Denmark here, probably. They're good in furniture. But the Swedish viewers won't like it when I mention it together with Volvo, right? Well, back to the seats. Here on the outside, then you have leatherette, so it's also animal-free. And that's a really good, sustainable and animal-friendly solution. And I just love those seats. They look inviting and living room-ish. Steering wheel, quite easy and simple. Round structure, and then on the side with the other Volvos, you usually have it here in high gloss. This one here is matte, and I prefer it. So this feels and looks better actually than in the more expensive Volvos. Left side for the cruise control, right side to control something of the digital instruments right there. Soon more deals to the digital instruments. And when you look over to the right there, this is again this aluminum style decor element, which is also then again available in this matte bright wood if you pick that style. So probably I would take it with those seats here, with these seats, better to say these than those, with these seats. And then with the bright wood, if that's available, depending on the market. This is really very well done. Now let's get inside. Of course, a shoe tap to keep the interior as clean as possible. But no pumping up, y'all, here with manual seats, because these here are electric. Got that with the these now. So front and back and so on. And manual, putting that lower part longer, and they are really very comfortable. So if you think about XC40 versus XC60, yes, the XC60 is a little bit bigger, but these seats here, they are already very good, very upright. And also if you compare this car here to those Segment Brothers by other brands, the XC40 already gives you a feeling, I'm a true SUV. I'm not like a crossover something. This is already a true SUV seating position, and that's what I really like about this vehicle, and would maybe also pick this one here, if you compare it to others. We also have a comparison episode about. And, best looking seat in the segment and also one of the most comfortable in the segment. That's really good. With 1.86 m or 6'1", put the seat very low, still have some headroom left. With the panoramic roof here, if you go without the panoramic roof, you would even have a little bit more space. Steering wheel here with the manual control. You can find a good position as for that. Just, you know, this manual fixation here is really, really strong to use. And when you set it loose, then yeah, keep your hands away from that. So be careful for that. But other than that, good overview, upright seating position, true SUV already, no compromises. Now the interior overview, soft touch here at the top of the dashboard, those vertical air vents, soon more details to this 9-inch touchscreen, everything runs over that. Besides, the lower part here with the volume knob, that is still manual, and I like to have that because sometimes you want to tune down or up the music in a very fast way. Drive mode selector is here on the right side, and then you can switch it here. And in this case, because we have the hybrid one, also have the hybrid mode, or then power, that everything boosts together. And then there's also this pure mode, and this will then predominantly get you to the electric drive, but it will also activate combustion engine when you really push the throttle still. And off-road mode would be available at low speeds, and then changing the ESC system and so on, and also the throttle input, so you have a little bit more wheel spin and so on, but it's front-wheel drive only anyway here. Well, and then in the lower part you have the cable connection for the smartphone, for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, another USB supply, you have an inductive charging platform as well. Then we have this shifting lever, which can be either be gotten like this, or also in this inscription trim, in this crystal shape alike, but I think I will just leave it like this. As I said, also inscription only with animal skin seats. Then adaptive cup holders right there, everything from a quite good finish. And then there's a lot of space if you put up the armrest. You have even more space available in the middle console. That's also quite cool. Instruments, I picked a view here with the GPS in the middle part. Other than that, you cannot change so much in those digital instruments, 12.3 inch, but they're actually quite good and have a clear view. And again, the big advantage is that you can have this central GPS. So how does this hybrid gauge work? So it's really complicated, but let me try to explain. So you see this lower area right there where the battery is. When everything is below 90 degrees, you see it's recuperating. So there's the recharging process back to the battery. And the blue line you can see above that, above the ready sign, that one is the electric power I have available. So I could accelerate to that point and still would be driving all electric. And then there's this small water drop, which is not the water drop, but a fuel drop. And as soon as this one is filled out, the combustion engine is on. At the moment it is not filled out. You can see it's more just a silhouette, and that means we're driving all electric. You cannot hear it that well, maybe a little bit, but that's the gauge here where you can actually see it. So for example now you could see it's not filled out, this drop. And now look at the drop when I hit the throttle over the electric line. There it is. Then the drop is filled out and also the combustion engine went on. And you can see it did not happen until I was over this electric line or field, and now when and on the brakes again, and now I'm also going downhill at the moment. There you can see, again, the drop is not filled out and I'm recuperating, and as long as I stay here in this lightning symbol area with the throttle, I'm still driving electric. But now looking really closely at it, usually while driving normally and paying attention to the road, it's really, really hard to see that. And you can also use those battery hold functions, sustain for later use, for example, or even charge the battery by the combustion engine. This will consume much more fuel. It's not efficient, doesn't make sense at all fuel economy wise, but it might make sense when you enter a city which has already like an all-electric zone or something, emission zone, that will come more and more probably in the next years, so you're already ready for that. And now this 9-inch infotainment system up close, this is the GPS. And maybe you've seen, we switched to the car here for the infotainment system here with the matte wood, that you can see how it looks like also in combination with the screen, just for some more variation. And here it responds, quite okay, could be a little better, but could also be worse. I mean, you can very well use the GPS, no problem. Here again, this hotkey in the lower part, like with the iPhone, with the older iPhones, and then you can, for example, pick the Apple CarPlay right here, and let's listen to this sound system, which is actually quite cool, the Harman Kardon system, and great surround sound, really nice. And then here again you can go back and, for example, switch again to the GPS and so on. And then with swiping right, you can, for example, click on the sound experience, and then you can have, you know, a lot of possibilities right there. In this case, you do not have this special Gothenburg opera sound, but I can tell you it still sounds very nice, especially for this segment. And on the left side, you have, for example, the assistance systems you can control right there, roadside information, but usually you leave all of that on. And on the top part, you could go to settings and then, for example, change the language and so on. And well, it does collect a lot of fingerprints, but the good thing is when you hold this lower button, then it turns black. Then you can wipe it all clean without, you know, activating anything. Then click once again, and then you go back to the activation thing. Here, the climate unit in the lower part, when I start up the car, by the way, there it is. That's the only thing. You always have to go here like this, or like this, or like this. That's possible. Doing that while driving is a little bit complicated. Here also with the steering wheel or seat heating. It's cool to have that, definitely. Of course, all option. The alternative would be then to use the voice command for that. Set temperature to 23 degrees.
Temperature set to 23 degrees.
So that's, for example, possible, and that relieves you of the stress of doing that while driving. Or, for example, I'm warm or I'm cold. Let's see if that works. I'm cold.
Temperature set to 24 degrees.
So that works as well. And, you know, this is a good workaround that you don't have to, you know, use that while driving. And the rear view camera also offers this drone view from above. Really spectacular, also good in the resolution. Of course, you can also pick different screens for that. And that's done like this. When you tap the screen, then those cameras appear. And then, for example, you can have the standard rear view mode. So what's quite annoying is the gear shifting. R, reverse, then over the N, and then D, drive. And back again, you're in drive, and then N, R. Always have to go twice. There's no possibility, for example, for, you know, like you just pull it a little bit further and then you are in D. So, you know, especially when going back and forth, that's indeed a little annoying. So here with the XC40, Volvo said, well, let's not make the trunk that long, but let's already do a proper legroom. So when you move down from a bigger car, then you don't have any compromise here at all. And indeed, this really works also with the legroom if you're taller. So for 4 tall adults, no problem. Then again, with the panoramic roof, it's still okay here with the headroom. And you have a good view then to the sky. Really cool. Also soft touch materials here at the inside of the doors in the rear, at least on the outside here. Just the inside here is hardback. And again, the felt on the very inside. So overall, a good quality impression here from the rear and a very upright and comfortable seating position. You cannot adjust here anything, but the seats that already flip from here, and you see those automatically going down head restraints, you can also do it from the front with the infotainment system and then hit someone who's sitting in the back. Yeah, I tried that a lot of times. Then you have ISOFIX at the outside of the seats, and then you have those cup holders, which are also somewhat adaptive. And I just love this seat design. Again, being inspired by furniture design, both in comfort and also in the visual design. And this also presents me with the opportunity to show you the panoramic roof once more. First of all, you have this bright shade, and this is also cool about this very interior trim. You have a bright sky and also this bright shade, so everything is light in the interior, even if it's dark or cloudy. And then you can also open that for real to leave some more light in. And well, if I go for SUV, then I'm probably not buying a convertible. So at least this one is my compromise. You know, I'm a convertible lover, so when I don't have a convertible, at least I can enjoy some panoramic roof. And it's actually quite wide and long, this opening. And now to the trunk, which also has this foot kick opening mechanism. Quite handy if you have your hands not free. And we can see here is a quite good dimension, square dimension. Even though there's the plug-in hybrid, we still have some space underneath right there, and that's also where I would store the cable, and not like here in this, you know, separate bag that's available. That this can be also fixed here, you know, with this hinge. And I mean, it's a solution but I would store it underneath. I already flipped one of those seats, and if I put a cabin trolley inside, you can also see more of those dimensions. Here we go. And then flip the other part. Ski hatch is also available, and there you can see they go all the way flat, and that's really cool. So a very well usable car indeed.
Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge, here with the Volvo XC40 T5 twin engine, the plug-in hybrid version of this one. You know, this will also be available as pure electric, but today the PHEV. And the full potential of this PHEV you can rather play out when you have like traffic situations and you switch back and forth. Of course, you charge externally as often as possible, and you have those situations when there's like approaching traffic light, you leave the throttle. Then you can see there's some recuperation happening, gaining back energy to the battery. I hit the brakes and I see that the recuperation is being intensified. And only if I need more braking power, then the real brakes of the car are being applied. And different recuperation modes, I wish they would be available. There's one, there's the B mode. So, but when I see like there's not much more recuperation happening due to that, so it's not really like a big change. And later on the motorway, I will also test more about, you know, when you go like plus and minus with the shifting lever, but it's not the recuperation, I can already tell you so far. Well, the driving feeling itself is pretty light, so you don't feel the additional weight of the battery, and the car is, you know, really nice to control. The steering feeling is it's arcade-alike, so like in a computer game, it's direct, yes, but it doesn't give you like the best feeling, you know, so it doesn't have a good connected feeling. That's also a thing, you know, the interior is really stylish, and these seats here, they are the best ones available, actually styling-wise. It's really cool. And the exterior is also, you know, stunning, definitely. But the driving feeling, I mean, it's good and quite silent car, and it's a nice, comfortable ride, but you don't have this connection, which you would, for example, have like in a BMW X1 or X2. That's better than for the sporty driving, for example, but it always depends on the emphasis you put in, and if you're more fascinated by exterior and interior and so on, and you know, why not? Also the room that's offered here in this vehicle is cool, and the seating comfort definitely as well. And then at the end of the day, so recently we had so much feedback for this segment that so many guys of you actually went for the XT40 because you got the best offers at the dealer. So I'm not sure if they have some special actions at the moment, like special incentives, or if the others just don't do it. That's also you know, really interesting aspect. So here again, it's always good to see when I'm rolling or reducing speed, the energy is not really lost. So that's definitely the big advantage then of this PHEV. And then we can also reduce the fuel consumption there a little bit. And especially when you're really stuck in traffic, which we are not, hopefully today, then you know you don't have the engine running all the time and so on. That's again another cool thing. We have those different driving modes. So at the moment, hybrid, that's where the car would usually start in. Then the car's just deciding it on your own, when it's combustion engine active and when not. And since the engine is a small engine and it's really silent and very well insulated from the cabin, so you don't really hear when it's active or not. So it's really hard to find out, definitely. So they're also very smooth transitions, because sometimes then the engine is shut off and so on. And even more so than in the pure mode. So that one then is putting an emphasis on you really want to drive electric first, you know. And as long as you roll very slowly and so on, this works. But when you then hammer the throttle, in this case, also the engine is being activated. You know, in the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, when you're there in the all-electric mode, then it stays in this electric mode all the time. However, the battery is also bigger. You know, I feel that's also the right decision. Then again, the most manufacturers go for the argument, yeah, maybe when you hit the throttle, you are in emergency situations that you want to do like an overtaking process, and it's safer when the combustion engine sets in then. Yeah, I mean, you can also follow this argument. Yet again, I would like to be in the electric mode when I put the electric mode in, you know, or what's your take on that? And the other preset here would be then the power. Then the combustion engine is always on, and the most power is being drained from the battery to get the best boost. And in this case also I have the RPMs, you know, in the digital instruments. When I'm in the pure mode, for example, the RPMs drop, and I rather have this hybrid view where I can see, you know, from recuperation, and when the batteries are beautiful landscape here as well, near Salzburg, and between Salzburg and Berchtesgaden actually, so very, very southeast of Germany and like northern part of Austria. So now, when, for example, let's go to the power mode and accelerate something out, see what this combined power can do from 50 kilometers to 100. Plop, that's it. And you saw maybe the car needed a while to set in. This typical 3-cylinder sound, 1.5 liter 3-cylinder, which sounds a little bit more sonorous than the one from a 4-cylinder. Interesting as well. And you know, just over 7 seconds, between 7 and 8 seconds is the acceleration always for this car. A little bit less than with the normal T5 without the plug-in hybrid, so slower indeed. But you see, you do have a reasonable acceleration, so you don't miss any power. And this could also in a way make sense because you only have the 3-cylinder engine, but then again, to even out this lacking displacement, you can have the electric drive, for example. And putting it back into hybrid mode, this will be more efficient then. And again, when I, for example, leave the throttle right here, then again, the battery is gaining back some of the energy. So depending on, at the moment, there's, you know, not much traffic light situations and so on. But when, for example, the next village comes, I have to reduce the speed to 50 again and let it roll out beforehand and can get back some of this energy. To me, the coolest thing is really when you start the car in the very morning, for example, at your house, at your flat, in front of the door, or maybe in your basement garage, and then you start all silent, and that's nice, relaxing for you, and also for your neighbors and so on. That's actually pretty cool. And then you use the combustion engine, for example, you know, on motorway and countryside roads like this, for example. It's pretty stable, by the way, here also. When we're going higher speed, here the car doesn't lean so much to the left and the right. The suspension is indeed a very nice compromise of comfort and sportiness. So the XC40 delivers the sportiest ride of all those Volvo SUVs. It's also the smallest one, most compact, so indeed it is also more fun to drive than with the XC60. And we'll soon also get to a little bit more curvy roads where we can also show you a little bit more of that. And after that, we'll hop on to the motorway to see, you know, what about assistance systems and how does this PHEV effect play good or bad or whatever on the motorway. And now to some dynamic driving situations right here. Accelerating up the hill, now the 3-cylinder is giving a little bit more sound because it's definitely working a little bit more. And you do, of course, have an acceleration advantage if you compare it to the just 3-cylinder version without the electric drive, definitely. Well, why did they combine it with the smaller engine? Probably also cost reasons, emissions reasons, for example, as well. So the fleet consumption is definitely lower than in this case. So here in the normal hybrid mode, it already gives me some quite nice boost. Sometimes when you accelerate, you first feel some electric drive in, you know, first coming, and then the combustion engine setting in, also a typical, you know, PHEV characteristic. And here in the power mode, it's more spontaneous as for the acceleration. And for example, if I'm planning like an overtaking maneuver or something, and I want it to be a little bit more boosting than when accelerating out. For example, maybe if I find a safe spot to overtake this 2 Series Active Tourer by BMW, but really hard to do that here in those winding corners. But the car is actually feeling quite at home. There's also difference than when you compare it to the XC60. The XC60 really feels more, you know, settled, also very nice and comfortable car, stylish vehicle and so on. but this one here is just more fun to drive it, a little bit more agile. This I think, you know, could be a reason to go for the smaller vehicle, just to have some more agility, some more fun. See, the suspension is leaning a little bit to the outside, but just slightly, not too much actually, so you can live with that very well. Now we get to a more open area where I think we can do an overtaking process a little bit better, or probably this one will go to the right side now anyway. Yeah, I thought so. So here we go. Yeah, there's a nice acceleration out with the hybrid mode. And now again, what I talked about earlier, here approaching the next village, hitting brakes, reducing speed, and then again got back some of the energy. Or maybe, you know, go back to the pure mode that I'm all silent. In this case, you also heard that the combustion engine is being shut off. And as soon as you leave it with a minimal throttle input, you're also driving full electric. So again, it's a very nice ride, nice agile ride also with the XC40. Wow, that is blinding now. Double from the top and from the road itself, because the road is quite wet. And we're now heading on to get some panoramic shots for you. But of course, we also want to take a look at the motorway driving of this vehicle. And now to some motorway driving. Set the cruise control here to 80 kilometers an hour, and it's quite reasonable. As for the noise insulation, I would say not best in segment, not worst in segment, so something in the middle. What I realized is when I have the normal cruise control set, when I'm just driving normally, and I feel I have the steering wheel straight aligned with the cockpit, then the car tends to go a little bit to the right. So I think the reason is that the cockpit is a little bit, you know, like this oriented, and you more have to see, like, you know, how's the steering wheel to the road. But, you know, there are some cars which come more natural in this case, and some cars where you always think when you're going all the way straight that you have the steering wheel not straight, you know? You know what I mean? So this is something I just realized here when going on the motorway. However, there's the normal cruise control, and then there's the pilot assist. If you have this extended assistance systems package, and then the car is being kept in the lane, centralized. It's not supposed to be hands-free, because that's also not there as for regulations. I'm just showing it to you here that the car really keeps it quite central, like in the middle of the lane, and that's indeed quite good. And this system works very well. Also with the distance to the car in front of me. Now I'm reducing the speed on my own because I see this car wants to get in. But now when I set the cruise control right again, then the distance again is being kept, and it also works, for example, in traffic jam situations. As for the lane change, when you set this one here with the normal turning indicator, then it's also being aborted. So now we're switching the motorways right here. And as for the hybrid, is it, you know, any different? Of course, when you're going just on the motorway and primarily using the combustion engine, then you carry around more weight than you usually do. Yet again, when you have situations where you reduce the speed, then you can get some battery back to the battery. So that's definitely again pro and contra, and I can again watch it here. The battery is sometimes giving me a little bit of boost, sometimes now when I'm rolling or when the ACC is reducing the speed, then again I'm gaining back some energy. So the question is, are you going motorway cruise control 100, 120 or even faster without any interruption? Then probably it's a disadvantage. But when you have a lot of interruptions also on the motorway and braking and accelerating again, then again the plug-in hybrid or that you have the battery, this will then again have a good effect. So it really depends again on the driving profile or the respective day, on like how's the traffic situation and so on. Overall, it's a very comfortable car on the motorway, no matter which engine version you pick, because again, it's not the biggest SUV, it's also the smallest by Volvo. Yet again, you already have this upright seating position and a very good seating comfort. So that's also cool that you don't have to have any disadvantages just because you buy a small car on the exterior. You also have it, let's say, you know, long-term travel suitable, so to say. We have the blind spot monitor here, which has this, you know, there's no yellow triangle as we usually see. There's this red stripe. That's also quite well integrated. That's warning me from cars coming behind, also in advance. The overview in general in the vehicle is actually quite good when you're looking to the rear and also to the sides and so on. So really satisfied with that. And with the pilot assist, again, you can relax a little bit more. You keep your hands on the steering wheel, and the car in the front of is just being followed right there. So what we can try is also with different driving modes. Usually, also when you start up the car, you leave it there in the hybrid mode, then the car just decides everything on its own. The off-road mode is not available at higher speeds, therefore it's grayed out here at the moment. And power would be if I want to have the most boost, for example, if I want to do some acceleration here, for example. But when I'm in the hybrid mode and use the kick down, this is also happening. Again, this is just presetting everything, and pure, this would be then that I want to focus on the electric drive. Yet again, at certain speeds, this is not possible, and then the engine will jump on anyway. So, yeah, there are some certain presets, yes, but again, still the car at some point also decides on its own what to do. Rolling in traffic is actually quite nice, and then again, you can also change it here with the shifting lever, because you can leave it on D, told you earlier, or then go back to the B mode, which gives you a little bit more recuperation, but not a real harsh one. But the strange thing is, then when you go to the right or left, you would expect, oh, those are the recuperation modes, B7, B6, B5, but that's not the case, because you hear, not sure if you hear it on camera, that I hear the engine more. So those are the 7 gears of the dual clutch transmission. Yeah, about that. So they decided to go for this solution to have something similar than they would have with the combustion engine car. I think it's not really logical for a PHEV. I would rather, expect the different recuperation modes in this case, So that's also the reason why I cannot go lower than B3 here at the moment. Because if it would be recuperation mode, I could go like all the way, like from B1 to B7. But B3 is the maximum now because I'm at 80 kilometers an hour. So the car says, no, Thomas, you're not allowed to shift down, because that's too much speed for this low gear. Yeah, but interesting finding there definitely. And here on the motorway, I mean, when I have the speed relatively steady, and it's more about the fuel economy of the combustion engine itself, plus this additional weight we carry, the economy figure is also not that cool. So at the moment we have 8.6 liters on 100 kilometers, and yeah, that's not really that satisfying. It's the thing with those Volvo engines that most of the time they are not that good really in the in the fuel economy. Yeah, that's something we experienced quite a lot of times already, and the PHEV will only change that when you have situations where you really can use more recuperation when you're in the city and so on. Then it will make a difference also. Austrian police control. They were like, what is this guy doing with the camera inside the car? It's like, I'm controlling the police. Yeah, dash cams, it depends from market to market, by the way, if dash cams are allowed or not. Regulations are also about to change here and there. See how that one plays out. Dash cams, good that we have them, otherwise we wouldn't have all this great footage from Russia, right? Only in Russia, those dash cam videos. So now back here in the city, there again we have the situations where we can use a little bit more of this PHEV feeling, and especially when you're coming to a halt here, you don't have the typical stop-start where then again the combustion engine hops on directly again, so you can roll just electrically. Maybe there's next traffic light coming and so on. That's where this car has all the potential, not really on the motorway. Doesn't make it so much worse, but it doesn't make it really better on the motorway,
And towards the end of our episode, what about the fuel economy? It's always hard to tell with plug-in hybrid vehicles because it so much depends on when did you recharge, how often did you recharge externally. So you cannot really, say 100%. What we can say is that when you're not relying on the power and rather doing like cruise control, motorway and so on, and mainly use the combustion engine with a little bit of recuperation, so that would be like the fuel economy when you don't recharge externally. Then you remain at about 8 liters on 100 kilometers, 29 mpg US, 35 mpg UK. It will get better then when you recharge, of course. Then you have also energy consumption, yes, and you also have costs at home, for example. But it will be better than in the fuel, and will be worse if you don't recharge and, of course, have more high speed and so on. So it really depends on the driving profile. And now to our conclusion for today with the XC40 here as the plug-in hybrid. First of all, from the exterior, it's a really cool car. It looks really strong in the front. You can have a lot of design options. Whether you like this contrast roof or not, well, that's your taste. I would rather like it, in a more subtle, uniform way. However, interior also probably the best styling in the segment here with the Momentum Pro trim level with those special fabric leatherette seats mixed with a Scandinavian furniture design. Really very lovely done. And overall also the space you have is really cool if you compare it to the XC60, for example, or also to some of the competitors of this one. The package this car is offering is actually very, very decent. Well, then about the driving, it is not so connected with driver, car and road, so there's no sporty driving feeling if you compare it to the competitors. However, Volvo internally, this one here offers quite a lot of driving fun and is already quite sporty, especially if you compare it to the bigger SUV brothers. The plug-in hybrid does only make sense when you are charging it externally, frequently, yes, and also when you have a lot of situations where you're on the brakes, gas again, and so on, when the recuperation really can be used. In most cases, it will not have a dramatic effect on the fuel economy, and in general, the Volvo engines, they consume a lot of fuel. So it is up to your driving profile if it makes sense or not. And of course, it can make sense if there are some governmental benefits in your respective country or if taxation is then better for you. For example, this will be a very big topic now in Germany. In general, about driving this one, it's a good, comfortable driving feeling, a good compromise between everything. Again, steering feeling is not that, connected. It's direct, but not in a sense naturally connected. That's maybe something this car has lacking if you compare it like to the German premium manufacturers. But other than that, and especially styling-wise and what you have on the interior, this cannot only keep up and is really now, in some aspect, top of the segment. So really interesting car. Pricing point, again, this will be about the taxation because it is a very expensive one, yes. Especially if you go for that inscription trim level, I would strongly advise against that. That's a bad price performance then. Here the Momentum or Momentum Pro, that's then the trim levels to go for. So which one would you take home? Leave me your comment, and which one would I actually take home of these? So the Audi Q3 has the best user interface, I would say. It has the most direct and more analog control. This is really cool. I want to have a direct and progressive steering. I still like manual climate knobs. I still like a volume jog at the steering wheel and so on. This is very important to me. And there's also good seating comfort. And you can pick between the normal Q3 SUV and also the Q3 Sportback. They don't differ that much. It's really more a design decision. The BMW X1 in the all-new generation has changed significantly. It's a little bit larger, more grown up. Also the full digitalized interior. You don't have manual climate knobs anymore for the climate unit, but the visualization and everything is really impressive. They also have a lot of non-animal skin seating alternatives, really great SensorTech perforated seats, so they have really increased the offer there. Good comfort as well. It's also definitely a very nice pick, no doubt. The BMW X2 in the new generation will also follow in this then, once again, the coupe version. The Mercedes GLA, also meanwhile available in the new generation, is also a very interesting choice. The user interface is better than with bigger all-new Mercedes models, and it's definitely a very nice all-rounder. Also very good seat offerings, but the controlling of the vehicle is still a little bit better with the Audi Q3, for example. Driving comfort and driving fun is good with all of the competitors. However, I feel that the direct steering in the Audi Q3 really helps. The Volvo XC40 is definitely the least sporty one of these vehicles. However, it also gives you great comfort, and the interior gives you this Scandinavian luxury atmosphere. And it now recently also comes with the inbuilt Android automotive system that you have also native Google Maps support, for example. That is also a very cool thing to have. So also a very desirable vehicle. All of these four are really doing a great job. And interestingly, they also have their electric versions. Meanwhile, the XC40 directly electric, or the C40, the electric coupe version of that one, the Mercedes EQA would be the electric version of the GLA. Then there's the BMW iX1, this is then the EV version. And with the Audi Q3, it would be the Audi Q4 e-tron, both also available in an SUV or coupe style. But which one would I actually take home? Well, as I said, I like the more simple, little bit old school user interface of the Audi Q3. You get in the vehicle and immediately know how and where and which to control. However, the seat offerings in the BMW X1 or the Mercedes GLA are also very convincing. And the Volvo XC40, yes, it's maybe not delivering the best sporty driving fun. However, it gives you a very sophisticated feeling, and also the seat ergonomics is great. So I really have to say, in this test it's really hard. All four of them are really very good picks, and you will enjoy all of these four premium compact SUVs. Inside their model lineup, they basically also have one of the best price-performance ratio if you compare it to other more expensive models. So they are all really good picks, but at the end of the day, the driving behavior of the all-new BMW X1 would convince me most. It drives in a so smooth way, it is flawless, it drives like it is on rails, the suspension is in adaptive trim here, a great comfort and sportiness at the same time. And if you directly drive these vehicles head to head, the BMW seems so much more refined in the interior build quality and also in the driving calmness on the road, how confident you feel. So it is indeed astonishing that although all of these compact premium SUVs are very good, the all-new BMW X1 just really tops them all as for the whole driving and the whole ownership experience. We can't say how it is for the long term and durability. With all new cars, it's really tough to say that, but from the look and feel and how you experience the car, the BMW X1 here in this new generation is indeed something very special. What do you think? Which one would be your favorite? Tell me in the comments and join us for more comparison episodes.